Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to the El Cajon City Council meeting. We continue to hold remote meetings while the governor's executive order continues to be in effect due to COVID-19 pandemic. I'd like to remind our citizens they can submit questions for items on today's agenda as we did in previous meetings. Public comments may also be submitted at this time, and they'll be read at the appropriate time during this meeting. Comments will be accepted up to the conclusion of the vote or of the item. Comments may be submitted through the City of El Cajon's website under Agendas and Minutes. Go to Video Streaming and you will see a button to submit your comments. The meeting is now called to order, and I'd like to ask for our city clerk to call the roll. Frank, am I just not hearing anything?
I can't hear anything either. Angela, you want to test out your mic again? Angela? Give me a second, sir. I'll track her down.
Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, in the meantime, I can call the roll.
Yeah, please do.
Mayor Bill Wells.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Phil Ortiz.
Here.
Councilmember Gary Kendrick.
Here.
Councilmember Steve Goebel.
Present.
Councilmember Bob McClellan.
Here.
All right, thanks. All right, would you please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance wherever you are and remain standing for a brief moment of silence after the pledge. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one
nation under God, indivisible,
with
liberty and
justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Okay. The city clerk posted orders of adjournment of the April 28th, 2020 meeting and the agenda for the May 12th, 2020 meeting in accordance with state law, council, and housing authority policy. I'd like to once again remind people to submit their comments early to make sure they are received on time. They can read, I'm sorry. So if you have comments that you'd like to make, it would be appropriate for you to go ahead and put them in now, and they'll be read at the time that your item is that comes up. We have 3 presentations on today's agenda. The first presentation, I'll call on Director of Information and Technology, Sarah Diaz.
Hello, Mayor and Council. I wanted to take this opportunity to share some great news. As many of you are aware, we've been working on a City of El Cajon mobile app. It's been something that's been in the process for a little while now, and I'm happy to report that it is live on both the Apple App Store and the Android Google Play. And I wanted to take a quick minute to show you what it looks like. So give me just a second. Frank, can you stop screen sharing for a second and I'll put mine up? Thank you. All right. Can you see my screen?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right. This is the El Cajon app. This is the view through the Apple iOS, but it looks almost identical in the Android form. We wanted to, first of all, move up into production this app as quickly as possible based on what we're going through with the pandemic. So what we wanted to do was focus quite a bit on citizen engagement. So as part of that, we've included the amazing resources on our webpage for COVID. We have current news that includes not only classic news and press releases, but also our Twitter posts from both the city, police, Instagram, from recreation, all the different ways that people get their news. We also are highlighting important resources to support our residents and special programs such as virtual parks and rec. We're also doing quite a bit to enable new business, and we're actually really proud of the business directory that we've created. This will be self-managed by the businesses within the city. There's actually a link in enabling businesses that shows you how you can claim your business and sign up. But what's amazing about this is you can go in and find out right now what stores are open, what their hours are, even pull up for restaurants their menus, and all this information will be maintained by the citizens themselves. One of the main things we wanted to make sure is you guys knew what was going on through your government, not only city council, but the various departments. And from here, you can watch council meetings, you can stream things, you can submit comments. And we've also included a newly refined requests and issues that allows you to present both anonymously or as a saved user. You can go in there, say you want to submit something for vegetation overgrowth, you can go in. It knows where you're at. You can take pictures, or you can choose a picture from your camera roll, put in your notes, and it's that easy. You can submit both anonymous or as a user so that we can get information back and forth to you. So all of this is rolling out through the month of May with full implementation expected right around June 1st. So we encourage everybody to go to the app stores and download it, and happy apping. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay. The second item under presentations is a certificate of appreciation for Caltrans. We have several representatives from Caltrans with us via video conference. I'd like to invite you to introduce yourselves and say a few words after I present the following. And this is a certificate of appreciation for Caltrans, and it reads, whereas April 20th to 24th is designated as 2020 National Work Zone Awareness Week, and whereas the California Department of Transportation is responsible for the design, construction, maintenance, and operation of the California State Highway System, as well as the interstate highway system within the state's boundaries. Caltrans District 11 maintains over 4,200 lane miles in the region, including those that traverse the city of El Cajon. And whereas Caltrans workers provide value to their communities by maintaining these roadways, and whereas in addition to all the planned and routine maintenance responsibilities, Caltrans crews respond to 247 customer service requests within the city of El Cajon during each calendar year of 2019. Now, therefore, I, Bill Wells, Mayor of the City of El Cajon, together with the City Council, do hereby recognize Caltrans for their dedication to our community and commend them for their ongoing efforts in keeping the roadways in and around El Cajon safe for all to utilize. And do we have the representatives from Caltrans here? Sounds like we're having a technical difficulty. Sarah, did you want us to continue, or?
Mr. Mayor, this is Graham, City Manager. We have so many people invited on this Zoom conference. We're not quite sure who it is. So
is Mr. Gustavo Delarada from District 11 there?
We can find that out.
I see his name.
Yes, sir. He's on here. He's been promoted to be a panelist. He can go ahead and say something. Give me a second. He should be able to say something now, sir.
Perfect. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Hi, Gustavo. How are you? Welcome.
Thank you. I've been promoted. I'm Gustavo Delarda, and I'm the acting district director here in Caltrans District 11. Mayor Wells, I would like to thank you, as well as Council Member Gobble and the rest of the Council for this recognition. As you mentioned, our maintenance people do a lot of things, and I'm really proud of them. And I really appreciate you taking the time, as well as the Council, to recognize them. If I can mention a couple of names, our Division Chief of Maintenance, Tom Boquin, our East Region Manager, Al Herrera, and Superintendents Mike Kindle and Danny Perez. Al, Mike, and Danny, out of the maintenance station in Santee, are the ones that take care of all the state highways in the city of El Cajon. And it's not an easy task for any of the state highways. There are a lot of challenges that they face. One of the recent challenges that they face is increased speeds. And as it was mentioned in the resolution, we recently celebrated the Highway Worker Memorial event, where we recognize the 189 maintenance workers that were killed on the line of duty since 1921. 16 of those were in the San Diego region. So we appreciate the recognition for our essential workers, because they keep our roads open so that the goods keep coming, and so other essential workers can get to where they need to. And we ask for everybody's help to slow down, make sure that they move over when they see our maintenance workers on the highways. And again, I'd like to thank you for this recognition.
Thank you, Gustavo. Council, did you want to make any comments? Steve?
Gustavo, you mentioned Al, Mike, and Danny, so I think it's great that we recognize them specifically, because the highway medians in El Cajon, the on-ramps, the off-ramps, they all look great. You're repairing things quickly. Graffiti's covered over in just a couple of days. You know, what that means for the city is it doesn't look like a broken window where things begin to accumulate. And what that means for the people of our city is this is a nice place to travel through and to stop in. And I think it's promoting good business when they see a clean place. When you see a dirty median or dirty areas or broken things, you might not want to stop in that city. So especially my thanks to Al, Mike, and Danny for keeping our city looking good and a reason why people can stop for food or enjoyment or whatever in El Cajon. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Well, Gustavo, thank you for coming today, and please give our best to all your staff and everybody who works with you.
Thank you, Mayor. Stay safe and healthy.
Thank you. Stay safe. All right. Proclamation number 3 is National Public Works Week. The last item under presentation is a proclamation to celebrate National Public Works Week. And I have a proclamation to read for this as well. Was somebody else going to read this proclamation? I guess it's me. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to the sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the city of El Cajon. And whereas the year 2020 marks the 60th annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association, be it now resolved, I, Bill Wells, do hereby designate the week of May 17th through May 23rd, 2020 as National Public Works Week. Congratulations. Dirk, are you going to say a few words?
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor, and we're certainly excited to receive this proclamation for all the work that our staff does. It takes an army and a team to do what we do, and so I certainly appreciate everything that the team does for the benefit of the residents and citizens and businesses in El Cajon. And very, very excited for National Public Works Week and all that they do as frontline first responders. They are out there putting it out on the line each and every day, and so we're very, very grateful for them. So thank you very much for this honor, Mayor, and it's our absolute pleasure to receive it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dirk. I appreciate that. Council, any thoughts or comments? Okay.
Doing a good job.
That brings us to agenda changes. Staff, do you have any agenda changes?
Mr. Mayor, no changes to the agenda.
How about city council members? Seeing none. That brings us to consent items. Consent items are routine matters enacted by one motion according to the recommendation listed below. With the concurrence of the City Council, a council member or person in attendance may request discussion of a consent item at this time. Council members, did you wish to pull any of the consent items? I see nobody that wants to. Okay. How about staff? Did you want to pull any consent items?
No, sir.
Angela, do we have any comments for consent items?
Yes, sir. Item 11 was pulled.
Okay.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Item 11 is actually a comment from Steve Butcher from the Heartland Fire Training. And he says, Heartland Fire Training Authority greatly appreciated the assistance and collaboration the El Cajon City staff provided with working on developing this lease. Their professionalism and dedication was very obvious and made this project very straightforward. Most notably, I would like to thank Dirk Epperson, Jeff Manchester, Dave Richards, Chief Swaney, and all their staff. And that concludes his comment.
Okay, thanks very much. Anybody like to make a motion then on consent items?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, there's
Mayor Wells, your vote, please, Mayor Wells.
I vote yes.
Deputy Mayor Ortiz.
I vote yes.
Council Member Goebel.
Yes.
Council Member Kendrick.
Yes.
And Council Member McClellan.
Yes.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Great. All right, that brings us to public comment. I'd like to once again remind the public to submit their comments via the city's website. At this time, any person may address a matter within the jurisdiction of the City Council, Housing Authority, Successor Agency, to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency that is not on the agenda. Comments related to items on today's agenda are to be taken at the time the item is heard. State law prohibits discussion or action on items not on the agenda. However, City Council and Housing Authority members may briefly respond to statements or questions, and an item may be placed on a future agenda. Angela, did you receive any comments?
Sir, I have one comment card submitted, and it reads, just a second, sir. It reads, the Monaco Trust appeared before the City Council approximately 4 years ago regarding Noble Family Trust, Noble Carey, APN 484-261-2900, regarding 1378 Peach Street, El Cajon. In January, the property owner applied for a variance ACP number 2020-0001 in regards to a wall. There was an agreement. It would be 5 feet tall. A few years later, the Peach property owner proceeded to extend the wall to 10 feet tall. At that point, photos were presented to the City Council. The El Cajon Code Enforcement was ordered to proceed with code violations. Code Enforcement raised the fines $1,000 when the property owner refused to comply. In January 2020, the Peach property owner sought to have violations exempted with an AZP. The Monaco Trust, filed various complaints and objections to the ACP, including poor quality. The Planning Department reversed the City Council's order and approved the wall at 7 feet 4 inches with various improvements. The failure of the wall to meet building standards and the failure of the Peach property owner to demonstrate the wall met the standards, all over the neighbors' objections. When the Monaco Trust filed an appeal as the victim of Peach Street owner, the planner responded by assessing a $263 appeal fee to this innocent neighbor. The Monaco Trust still seeks 100% code compliance of a 6-foot wall and waiver of any assessed fees against this opponent. We are the innocent victims of this aggressive business person. Copies of the letter by planning on May 5, 2020, and the letters of opposition dated May 11, 2020 were forwarded to Council Member Steve Goebel. Please stay safe and enter this objection into the Council minutes. When COVID is over, and it says we are in self-quarantine, Andre C. Handler is expecting to be available for 2 months due to cancer surgery.
We seek an opportunity to further raise this matter in person before the City Planning Department or the City Council. And best wishes for everyone's health, and that concludes their comment.
Thanks very much. Council, did you want to make any comments on this? Steve? No. Okay. Graham, will you look into this and make sure justice gets done?
Certainly. We are aware of this, and we'll send the council a memo with some background information.
Yeah, that'd be appreciative. Thank you very much. All right, that's the end then of public comments for Angela? That's the last one?
Yes, sir. No more comments.
All right, then there are no written communications. We are now at public hearings, and we have 3 items to consider. Item 13 is the adoption of the fiscal year 2020 and 2021 one-year plan, and I'd like to ask staff to tell us about this plan.
Frank, you want to, excuse me, this is Anthony Shute with Community Development. Frank, I just want to make sure that you have Mary Brooke. There we go. So she will be making our presentation.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Very good. Well, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This is going to be the second of 2 public hearings for the allocation of the fiscal year 2020 and 21 annual action plan for both CDBG and home funds. So if you'll recall, the first hearing was held on February 25th. And City Council heard the introduction of the annual action plan for fiscal year 20 and 21 and the staff recommendations for how these monies will be allocated over the next fiscal year. At that time, City Council did not make changes to staff recommendations. And if you'll look at Agenda Item 13, Attachments 2 and 3, which is going to be pages 123 through 126, those are the recommended allocations. So staff is recommending that City Council finalize the allocations of these funds as part of the fiscal year 2020-2021 one-year action plan and adopt the next resolution to approve the one-year action plan. And just let us know if you have any questions.
Okay, great. Council, any questions?
No questions.
Yeah, Bob. Go ahead, Bob.
No questions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
The public hearing continues to be open from the April 28th meeting. Angela, did you receive any comments from this item?
We have no comment cards, sir.
All right. Well, then it takes back to council. Somebody want to make a motion on this?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, please vote.
Mayor Webster vote.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ortiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Goebel.
Yes.
Councilmember Kendrick.
Yes.
Councilmember McClellan.
Yes.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right, council, would somebody like to make a motion, or is there more discussion?
Move to finalize the allocations of CDBG and home funds as a part of the fiscal year 2021 one-year action plan and adopt the resolution as stated.
Second.
Please vote.
Mayor Welter vote.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ortiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Goebel.
Yes.
Councilmember Kendrick.
Yes.
Councilmember McClellan.
Yes.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Thank you. The next item is item 14. It's the CDBG CARES Act. First amendment to the fiscal year 2019-2020 one-year action plan and amendment to citizen participation plan. Staff, would you introduce this item, please?
All right, good afternoon. This is still Mary Brooke Cox, Housing Specialist in Community Development. Can everyone see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I'll be providing an overview of the First Amendment to the fiscal year 2019 and 2020 one-year action plan and the amendment to the Citizen Participation Plan. Okay, so Congress passed the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, the CARES Act. It was signed on March 27th, which made additional CDBG CV money available to the city. The city will be receiving an additional $802,656 in fiscal year 2019-20. And this funding must be used specifically to prevent, prepare for, and respond to the coronavirus. Due to the emergency nature of these funds, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, has provided cities with the use of waivers in order to quickly allocate these funds. So as part of these waivers, we need to amend both the 2019-20 Annual Action Plan as well as the Citizen Participation Plan.
Okay. Are you finished, Mary?
No, I'm sorry. For some reason, it wouldn't let me go to the next slide. My bad. Just
no problem.
Little glitch there. We'll get there, though. I promise.
I'm doing fine.
Okay. So, if you'll recall, typically with the public services programs, there's usually a 15% maximum. So HUD has waived this requirement, and only 15%, and we can use up to 100% of the funds on public services, which is what we recommend doing. Now, we received 7 eligible applications from 4 different agencies. Of those applications, we recommend funding the following. First, we have East County Transitional Living Center, their emergency shelter program, which currently operates in the winter months. We propose expanding that into the summer months as well, and funding in the amount of $185,294. Secondly, we have Interfaith Shelter Network, and they are proposing a rental and utility assistance program. This would be specifically designed for those who it would be specifically for those people who have been affected by COVID, so it would assist them with their rent and utilities and that sort of thing. Let me just get my PowerPoint back because it went away. Okay. CSA has a similar program with rental and utility assistance. We would also like to fund them in the amount of $200,000.
Mary Brooke, what slide do you want to be on?
We are under the slide that has East County Transitional. It should be the 3rd slide. Sorry, I don't have control anymore. I'm not touching my computer. There we go. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so just to recap, the second application would be Interfaith Shelter Network. They have a rental and utility assistance program. We would like to fund them with $200,000. Similarly, CSA, also rental and utility assistance, but we recommend funding in the amount of $200,000. And then Home Start also has a rental and utility assistance program, and we recommend funding that in the amount of $172,362. And finally, Home Start also has a motel voucher program. So that's going to take existing homeless folks and get them into a temporary shelter in a motel. And we recommend funding that in the amount of $45,000. So that brings our total public services allocation to $802,656. Frank, can you get the next slide for me, please? Thank you. Okay. So the Citizen Participation Plan requires a 30-day public review and comment period. In the case of an emergency, this has been reduced to a 5-day review period per the HUD regulations. So we have incorporated this language into the Citizen Participation Plan. The whole purpose of doing this is to make sure we can get these funds to the public as fast as possible. Additionally, we are recommending non-substantial changes to bring the Citizen Participation Plan in line with current requirements. So the full draft of the plan is available on the city's website if anyone wants a complete read of it. Okay. So staff is recommending that the City Council open the public hearing and accept public testimony, and then adopt the next resolution in order to amend the Citizen Participation Plan and the fiscal year 2019-2020 one-year action plan. Okay. And then following the City Council meeting, the city will enter into agreements with service providers. Our goal is to begin these programs as quickly as possible. Staff will begin to prepare the amendment to the one-year action plan and submit it to HUD, and we'll also be working on amending the Citizen Participation Plan. Okay. And then I also just want to note that the proposed programs are not open just yet. We hope to open these programs in the next 2 weeks. We will make an announcement on the city's COVID webpage with the resident resources. If you'll please, the public could just check our website at any time to know when the launch of the programs will happen. It's also worth noting that the city will not be taking applications for rental assistance. Additional documentation, the service providers themselves will take applications, and it will require additional documentation. But if you have any specific questions, feel free to email us, housing@cityofalcohol.us. The public is able to reach us there with questions. But thank you all for your time, and community development team is here for any questions.
Thanks very much. I appreciate that. Council, do you have any questions for Mary?
Yes. Is that the amounts that the different agencies asked for, or was that something that we developed on from our staff?
It's a combination of both. I can tell you one of the key differences you're seeing here. East County Transitional Living Center initially asked for $150,000 for their emergency shelter program. And then they also proposed a second program for rapid rehousing in the amount of $25,000. After discussing with them and some concerns with how rapid rehousing could potentially be marketed due to the religious component of the agency, we thought it might be better to roll that request into the emergency shelter program and just give that program a bigger boost.
And so that would be the amount that they really needed, right?
I believe so. I don't want to speak for the agency, but they did ask for $150,000, and we're giving them an additional, essentially $35,000 above their asking.
Right. Okay. Well, I just want to make sure that they're sufficiently funded because of the fact that the good deeds they do in the community and over the years that they've really been an exceptional nonprofit for our city. And the others I don't have that much experience with, but I know what East County Transitional Living Center does.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. Mm-hmm. Were there any agencies that requested funding that were not funded?
No, we only had 4 agencies who requested funding, and all 4 agencies received some type of funding.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I got a question. The funding is coming from the federal government, correct?
Yes, sir.
And this is use it or lose it money, isn't it?
Yes.
We don't get to carry it over for another year. It must be used for COVID-related impact, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think one thing that's unusual about this is we have to front the $800,000 out of our reserves and then pursue reimbursement. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, that's unusual, so I'm grateful to the city staff for putting us in a financial position that we can front this kind of money. I think that's job well done.
Mary, this is Mayor Wells. I've noticed that there's some of the usual people that I expect that would ask for funding, like Meals on Wheels and Crisis House. They didn't show up in this. Is this because they just didn't respond, or did they know that this was happening?
So there's actually going to be 2 pieces or 2 answers to your question. First of all, in regards to Meals on Wheels, there were several different response teams within the city working to assist our businesses our residents and that sort of thing. So Meals on Wheels, who frequently, we do give them CDBG money, we gave them money that is not CDBG. If I'm not mistaken, they received about 15,000 or so. Please don't quote me. But so they and Elder Help have both already received funding outside of CDBG. This way, there's not quite as many restrictions and reporting requirements, that sort of thing. And now for these specific, the CDBG CV money, we did a limited application process. So we only invited 6 agencies that we have worked with in the past or that have expressed an interest to working with the city. That's kind of in line with housing. So we only submitted a notice of funding availability to 6 agencies in the region. We were following HUD guidelines, doing this limited solicitation, but it was a faster way for us to get this money out there while still making sure we are able to provide the services that council previously said they were interested in.
All right, that makes sense. Okay. Council, any more questions?
Yeah. This does not count the $133,000 that we've already issued to organizations like Rock Church East County for food distribution, those kind of things, right? This is in addition to the $133,000.
So the 133 is entirely separate from the CDBG money. And I'll let Graham or whoever speak to those details, but it is separate.
They weren't excluded from this. They already got some money through a different source of money.
Yeah. That's correct. And remember, these are for some very specific programs, and these are the kind of agencies that can address those types of programs specifically.
And to clarify, when we rolled up the money into the East County Transitional Living Center, I forget what you call it, homeless services or something, that is the non-religious part of their program, isn't it?
The $185,000 we're recommending funding is for the emergency shelter program, which is not part of the religious sector.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks very much, Barry. I appreciate that. The public hearing is now open. Angela, did we receive any comments for this item?
Sir, we have one comment card or comment submitted, and it's from Home Start. And it was submitted by Laura Transetti, Chris Schilling, and Lauren Pollock. And it reads, "Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor Wells and council members. We want to thank you for your consideration of our proposal to assist vulnerable residents of El Cajon who have been impacted by COVID-19. Home Start has been serving El Cajon residents for over 30 years through a variety of programs, and we appreciate the opportunity to continue working closely with the City of El Cajon to provide aid to those who need it most. As a nonprofit dedicated to strengthening families and communities, Home Start utilizes evidence-based practices to help households obtain self-sufficiency. We have a strong expertise in homeless prevention, outreach, and supportive housing. The funding you approve today will allow us to help El Cajon families who are struggling financially during this crisis to avoid homelessness. Based on what we are seeing on a day-to-day basis, working with families within the city is desperately needed. We also want to acknowledge and thank Graham Mitchell and his amazing team who quickly and professionally conducted a fair and transparent RFP process to ensure that this funding gets out into the community without delay. Again, we thank you for your consideration, and we look forward to continuing to partner with the City of El Cajon to help residents in need. That concludes the comment.
All right, thanks very much. I'd like to make a motion then to close the public hearing.
Second.
Mayor Wells, your vote.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ortiz.
Yes.
Council Member Goebel.
Yes.
Council Member Kendrick.
Yes.
Council Member McClellan.
Yes.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Well, gentlemen, this seems all pretty straightforward. Any more discussion, or somebody like to make a motion?
Adopt the next resolution.
Second.
Mayor Wells, your vote.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ortiz.
Yes.
Council Member Goebel.
Yes.
Council Member Kendrick. Mr. Kendrick? Councilmember McClellan,
Yes.
and Councilmember Kendrick. Can you hear us?
I don't
Okay,
see him.
I don't
Okay.
see him on the screen.
Okay, motion carries by a 4-0 vote with Councilmember
is.
Kendrick.
There he is.
Councilmember Kendrick.
Oh, I'm voting yes.
Thank you. Motion
Okay.
carries by unanimous vote.
I got disconnected there.
Okay.
All right. The last public hearing for today, item 15, is regarding the Renette Park freestanding light poles and wireless facility. Staff, would you tell us about this, please?
Yes, Mayor and Council. I'm going to ask Frank Carson to present the PowerPoint, and if you wouldn't mind, Frank, when I say next slide. So this project includes a lease agreement that will allow the city to enter into an arrangement with AT&T, and this will allow AT&T to construct 2 new light poles for park activation. It would also allow AT&T to install a new wireless communications facility for their use. The specific plan is to allow the light poles to be at 80 feet high. So some details on the lease agreement. This lease agreement would be for 10 years for 3 5-year options to renew. The lease agreement starts out with a monthly lease of $3,333 with a 2% annual increase. That equates to about $40,000 per year. There's also a rent credit of $160 for the construction of the second light pole. The second light pole will be available to the city to lease out to other wireless providers and to rent that space to those wireless providers. The lights will also be under the sole control of the city. Next slide. So here's an aerial image of the Renette Park. Renette Park is about 5 acres, and it's on Renette between Emerald and Estes. So it's about the southwest section of the city, and it's predominantly located in a residential neighborhood. Next slide. The site plan here shows the park with the red circles around the light standards to give you an idea where those are located. Those light standards are about 20 to 25 feet off the property line, and the lights are looking into the park. The proposed equipment cabinet is adjacent to the community center next to the parking lot, and you can see it there in the red box. The equipment cabinet will be a similar block wall construction as the recreation building. Next slide, please. This elevation depicts the 2 light poles with the panel antennas on the western light pole, and then space for future antennas. The poles are again at 80 feet in height with the antennas at the top of the light standard. Again, the lights are just below that. This perspective also gives you an idea that on what these light centers look in relation to the existing palm trees that are located at the park. Next slide, please. This photo simulation gives you more of a realistic approach on what these light standards will look like at the rec center. Next slide, please. And this photo simulation is looking at the lights from Renette, looking east. The light poles are typical that you would find at a neighborhood park. The height allows for the precise modulation of the lighting on the field to minimize spillover, light and glare onto the adjacent properties. This height is necessary, the 80-foot height is necessary to achieve the wireless signal strength and to light the field while minimizing light and glare. The lighting will extend the usage of the park into the evening hours, and it's going to meet an unmet demand for recreational use sports at the park. We also believe it's going to provide for additional safe activities at the park into the evening hours. Next slide, please. We think it's important that the City Council as well as others see that by this lighting exhibit, how the light can be concentrated in the area that's needed for example, this field of play. The exhibit shows that light or that glare is limited to less than 5,000 candelaria. And what that is just a measurement that's used in determining the intensity of light. The light experience on the sidewalk adjacent to the single-family properties would be similar to that you would find in a streetlight pole. So it's not going to create a nuisance on the adjacent properties. Next slide, please. This map identifies it's a coverage map, and it shows how AT&T is filling a hole in their coverage. The yellow and the red indicates limited to no coverage, and with the addition of the wireless for AT&T, they will fill in a gap in this area. Next slide, please. And the Planning Commission recommended to the City Council approval of this project on April 21st. It was a 4-1 vote. The Planning Commission indicated that the proposed specific plan with the wireless, the lights, and the lease agreement serves the public, except the lease agreement, serves the public interest. Wireless is an important means of communication, especially for the community and emergency services. This is also in line with the city's general plan. Next slide, please. The staff is recommending as well that the City Council move to adopt the next resolution in order approving this CEQA exemption for this project. Also to improve a resolution approving the specific plan, and then finally a third resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a lease agreement with New Singular Wireless for the leasing and for the construction of the light poles. Staff is available to answer any questions.
Oh, thanks very much, Tony. Council, any questions for the staff? Steve.
We've heard a lot about 5G and the controversy surrounding that. This project is not a 5G project, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Have we sent out information to the people across the street about the light coming into their property?
All property owners within 300 feet of this of the park were notified of the Planning Commission and the City Council public hearing and given opportunities to voice any concerns they may have had.
Were there many concerns or any concerns?
We had, I believe, 6 comments. Most of those concerns had to do with the perception that 5G, this project was 5G, and the perceived health risk of wireless facilities. I just like to remind the City Council that those issues are governed by the FCC.
Right.
Right. Tony, are you using the new LED lights on this?
Yes, they are.
Oh, great. So the energy consumption is pretty low.
It is pretty low, and with technology, able to minimize any light and glare and target the light to the center of the field.
Will we be paying the electric for the lights?
We will have to pay. No, the city will pay for the electricity use of the lights.
Okay, and just for the lights, not for the AT&T.
That's correct, just for the lights.
They'll have their own electric meter.
That's correct.
Okay, sounds good. Are there any, Angela, is there any comments on public comment on this?
No comments were received, sir.
Okay, then council, I'll leave it to you. Would somebody like to have further discussion, or somebody like to make a motion?
I'll move to adopt this resolution order approving the California Environmental Quality Exemption.
Second.
Go ahead.
Mayor Wells, your vote, please.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ortiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Goebel?
Yes.
Councilmember Kendrick?
Yes.
Councilmember McClellan?
Yes.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
And I'll move to adopt the next resolution order approving specific plan 532 and to authorize the city manager to execute a lease agreement with New Singular Wireless.
Second.
Mayor Wells, your vote, please.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ortiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Goebel,
Yes.
Councilmember Kendrick,
Yes.
Councilmember McClellan.
Yes.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Great, that's all of them, right?
No, there's one more.
One
Move
more.
to adopt the next resolution in order authorizing the city manager to execute a lease agreement with new Singular Wireless PCS.
Actually, that was taken care of by
Yeah.
Mr. Goebbels'
Oh, okay.
motion.
He
You got
seconded
them
that.
both then. Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you, everybody. Appreciate that. All right, we're at administrative reports. We have several administrative reports on today's agenda. Item 16 is the award of RFP number 013-20 and the consideration of a solid waste franchise agreement with Edco Disposal Corporation. And staff, would you please tell us about this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. Before I turn the time over to our Public Works Director, Dirk Epperson, and our consultant from R3, Richard Tagore, I wanted to bring to the attention of the City Council a letter that we received from Waste Management. That letter was received last night at about 8:24 p.m. and it was sent to our purchasing agent, and we were able to open that document up this morning. So I wanted to read portions of the letter and then respond to it. This is a protest letter regarding the notice of intent to award of City of El Cajon's request for proposal RFP number 013-20, residential and commercial garbage, recyclable material, and organic waste collections. Waste Management protests the award of EDCO by the City of El Cajon on the following grounds. And as I'll read those grounds, and then I will respond, staff will respond to each of those issues. The first concern is a violation of RFP protest procedure. Quote, first and foremost, if the City Council proceeds with Agenda Item 16 on Tuesday, May 12th, awards the RFP as recommended by staff, and passes the proposed resolution, then the City will have violated the rights of the proposer to protest as set forth in RFP number 013-20, Section 4.18 of the RFP. That specific part of the RFP that they've quoted says, prior to award of a franchise agreement, the City will issue a notice of intent to award to all proposers on the City's Planet Bids website. Proposers shall have 5 business days from the date of the notice of intent to submit written protest of the City's intent to award. So let me respond to that really quickly. So that provision in the RFP sets a minimum standard of by which the City would notify any respondents, specifically the respondents that were not being recommended to be selected. The City actually went above and beyond that minimum standard. We sent a letter to both Republic and Waste Management on May 5th at 7 days prior, about prior to today's hearing at about 3 p.m. We sent we sent that letter via email, then we sent a hard copy of the letter, and we actually followed up that letter with a phone message. So in staff's perspective, the City's Planet Bid notice is the minimum standard. We went above and beyond that standard. I think we meet the intent of the notification and gave both parties plenty of time to respond. And in fact, just a few days after that letter went out, the City Council received some public comments from Waste Management in the form of a letter from their regional president. The second point raised in the protest letter is, I'll read this, quote, City Council's duty to fulfill its obligation to conduct all necessary investigations. In addition, Section 14.18 of RFP states that a franchise agreement shall only be awarded by the El Cajon City Council and based upon the proposal which best fulfills the requirements and provides the best value to the city, its residents, and businesses. No award will be made until all necessary investigations have been made to determine the responsiveness and responsibility of the proposer under consideration. The City Council shall be the sole judge as to the responsiveness and the responsibility of the proposer to satisfactorily perform the work specified within the agreement. So let me comment on this. This is perhaps one of the most complex processes that a council will ever consider in the course of its action. One of those reasons, or for one of those reasons, is why the city council hired or recommended hiring a consultant. We've hired a consultant, R3, to help us analyze that. We've gone through it. I think it's been pretty thorough vetting of the responsiveness of the proposals. It's not typical that we present the city council with a copy of each proposal of an RFP in any situation, and especially one in which like this, which would require a lot of negotiation depending on which direction the council takes. Staff, in our opinion, has been very open with the council. We've met with you. We've answered hopefully all of the questions that you've had, and if we haven't, we'll be able to answer those today. And so I think that we've done our due diligence in fulfilling our obligation and giving the city council all the information possible to make the best decision possible. And let me conclude with their third concern, again, quoting the letter: ensuring stakeholder input. One of the primary goals of the procurement process, as stated in the RFP, is to, quote, ensure an opportunity for stakeholder input regarding new or additional solid waste services desired from the collector provider, including residential and commercial customers. I think it's important, again, commenting now, it's important to comment that this section is taken out of context out of the RFP. This section is actually referring to once a company or a franchisee has been selected by the city council, that there's an intent that they will do stakeholder input to understand programs that are desired, to understand routes, things like that. That's when we'll be seeking stakeholder input. It's not intended to be during the evaluative process. You'll get that input through our public commenting today. But for them to make that statement is erroneous in terms of fulfilling our responsibility. So those are the 3 points that are made in the letter. Staff thinks that we've been able to satisfy those 3 issues. I'll kind of give it to the city council to determine whether you think that those have been addressed satisfactorily. If not, give us some direction of how you'd like us to proceed. Otherwise, we would recommend that the council proceed with the agenda item.
All right, gentlemen,
Any questions for staff?
I do.
Yeah,
the waste management letter references 5 business days instead of 5 calendar days or 7 calendar days. Can we clarify that?
Well, I don't think I'll look to our consultant, Mr. Tagore Irwin. I don't think it's specified either one. And so typically in contracts, if it doesn't specify either, it's just calendar days. Richard, did you have an opinion on that?
I mean, typically the business day is Monday through Friday. Calendar day would be Saturday through the following Sunday, or that nature. So usually 7 calendar days would cover 5 business days.
Are we confident that May 5th to today meets that requirement?
Since we sent this out about the time of a council meeting, I think we've met that requirement.
Yes.
Graham, is there any expectation that by allowing more time that we would get much different information?
Well, remember, this is an RFP process, so the responses that have been submitted are the responses that you're evaluating. You're not opening up the RFP. You're not looking at different data. You're not looking at different proposals. So in our perspective, the data is the data, and that's what's being presented. That data won't change between now and a future date.
And because by the nature of bids, this is solid, right? This can't be changed. We're not in the negotiation process any longer.
That's correct. And this may come up later on in the presentation, but one of the things that we did, which is a little atypical, is once we got a first proposal, we actually went back out after we met with them several times and they got a chance to understand our needs. We understood their needs. We actually asked for a highest and best, or last and best proposal. So we kind of went through that process to get the best deal possible for the residents and businesses of the city of El Cajon.
I have a question,
Bob,
about waste management has delivered a lot of services to different organizations, nonprofits, Chamber of Commerce, all these other things. Are we sure that EDCO would be as responsive and understanding and taking care of those needs? And his waste management didn't bill for a lot of these things, and I don't know if that's common with the waste. They do that, or would EDCO provide the same services for those agencies?
Hey, Graham?
I would recommend that can you save that question, Mr. McClellan?
Yeah,
I think that'd be appropriate to do that.
I think the first thing we have to decide is whether or not what we're going to do with this letter, and whether or not we're going to grant an extension of time or we're going to continue with the process. So if you have any more questions regarding those questions you might have that would help you make that decision.
I have a question. This is a little unusual.
Mr. Mayor, you cut out there at the last minute. I think you may have muted.
What I was saying was that I'd like the council members to direct their questions at this point to help them to understand what the best course of action would be in regard to either moving forward with today's agenda item or recessing for 2 weeks.
So staff would recommend, I don't know, I didn't hear the very beginning of that question. I don't know if it was directed to staff or council. Staff would recommend that the council, continue the item today and have that discussion, but we're here to take council direction.
Councilman, do you have any questions to help clarify that in your own minds?
I still have a problem with doing it in a virtual meeting rather than an open council meeting as we've done in the past. I think that a delay till we have a regular city council meeting in the city council chamber. Maybe we could extend the contract we have now for a short period of time to get through this COVID-19 time period, and then take up this item after the endemic is put to rest and have our regular council meetings again. I hate to do it, and it's kind of a secret type way of conducting a meeting.
Graham, how do you respond to that?
Well, I think at some point we have to do business. In fact, we've tried to delay this as long as we possibly could. In fact, we were hoping to, you may hear this in the presentation if we hear that today, that the goal was to actually present this in March, and we've been delaying this. We're at a point right now where we have bids locked in. I worry that those bids won't get locked in, and whichever company is chosen, there's a lot of equipment that needs to be purchased as part of the new franchise. Even if Waste Management were to maintain that, there's equipment that they would need to purchase. You've probably heard me say this before. You can't go to Walmart and buy trash trucks or recycled bins. These are things that have to be ordered and purchased. So I think we're already pushing the limit. I think that we've been pretty open with this process. I'd venture to say you probably have more people watching this than you would have in a normal council chamber. So you can make the argument we're actually more public than we are normally. So I know we've received more public comments than we've ever received on an item through this process than we do through the other process, through a live council meeting.
Oh, I just like the live council meeting. There were people can attend and they can express their opinion, and council can assess their decision at that time out in the open instead of, kind of doing it behind a computer.
Council members, any other thoughts? Steve.
I'll just share my experience. I too am concerned about the ability for the public to participate in a thing that affects every resident and every business in the city. With that said, I expressed to the city manager that concern, and I suggested, and he took me up on it, that he send out a press release and post on city social media that we normally don't promote or publicize a single agenda item, but rather we do it through the normal process of of notification of the whole agenda. But in this case, I believe last Thursday or Friday, we did send out city's social media notice to the public. I myself posted on my city council Facebook page, which has a little over 900 followers, about, hey, this is going on. Do you want to weigh in? And 114 people viewed that. And I received one comment, which was complimentary of waste management. I also put it on my next door social media, and my particular boundaries of my next door neighborhood cover 5,500 houses in the eastern side of the city. And I did not get any comments back from that. So in this case, normally when we promote a public hearing, it goes into the newspaper, into the legal section, the legal notices. And that's, unless you're kind of got a skilled interest in looking there, you're not going to know it. So in my own personal case, I actually feel comfortable from the 46 emails that I received about this thing, about the 5,500 people that I notified, about the 900 people on Facebook. At least in my experience, I think the awareness and the opportunity perhaps has been greater than through a normal process.
So, Steve, you're in favor of continuing with the item as it stands today?
I can go either way on that, to tell you the truth. I can share you my experience, which I just did, but I'm not opposed to continuing, say, for 2 weeks. I don't know what we gain in additional information. We haven't seen the staff report yet. So really what I would be looking for from additional time for the public to weigh in would be a new point of view that I haven't heard yet. And I've received 46 points of view about waste management. They've all been positive. I've received 2 points of view about EDCO, and they've been positive. So I don't know what different points of view we would receive. But I'm willing to say if the council's ready to postpone this, I'm okay with that too. We're 7 months out. My question for city staff is, if we go 7 months out now to 6 months out, does that put a hardship on any of the bidders in securing equipment in time for a January 1st start date?
We have not posed that question specifically of them. We do know that when we were laying out our initial calendar, the goal was to get to the council 9 months before the contract, because we felt that was sufficient time. So I don't know the answer to that question.
I think that's kind of important to answer, because if they need more than 6 months, we're already pushing the envelope.
My point and perspective would only be that we don't know when we're going to resume in-person council meetings with regard to social distancing. So it'd be an indefinite postponement. I don't know that 2 weeks we're going to be at a point where we can have open meetings per the governor's shelter in place. So that would be my concern. And my only point is it's an indefinite postponement. And to Steve's point, there's some logistical problems that arise if we're constantly kicking the can down the road.
My feeling about this is the main thing I would be concerned about would be the letter of protest, if that had validity. It seems to me that the city manager answered those questions to my expectation, that we did all the right things in noticing and following our own guidelines. If I felt like we had treated one of the parties unfairly and that 2 more weeks would rectify that problem, then I'd be all for it. But the truth is, in an RFP process like this, it's mostly the numbers that come out into play and what group we're going to choose. I don't see that changing at all in the next 2 weeks. We're not renegotiating. We're not recrunching the numbers. The numbers are what they are. Grab says we've got a lot of people that are weighing in a public comment, so it sounds like the public has a chance to weigh in. I think that you're right, Phil. I think it's hopeful, but probably unrealistic to believe that 2 weeks is going to get us through this. It could possibly be quite a bit longer. So, although I wouldn't be upset with waiting 2 weeks, it seems to me we should just get on with it and make the decision.
Well, I also said maybe we could wait, maybe we could extend the contract that we have for a year and then take it up at that time when we have open council meetings and make the right decision at that time instead of rushing this through and where people can't attend the meeting or, interact with us in person like normally would.
Well, I'd have to defer to legal counsel as to whether we could defer for a year. I think we put out our RFP and had the expectation of the public that we're going to make a decision.
I think the RFP process is only good for 180 days once it's been opened. So we do have a timeline we're going to have to meet. And the further you delay it out, the closer you get to exceeding that timeline.
So Jen asked the question. Graham, it seems like there's enough disagreement on this that I'd like to take this to a vote unless you have objections.
No, that's fine. And I should let you know also that we reached out to EDCO and found out that it takes 7 to 8 months to implement the transition period. So we're at that period right now.
What about waste management? Would they also need 7 to 8 months to purchase new trucks and carts?
I don't know that.
Okay.
So Bob, you seem to be the biggest proponent of putting off for 2 weeks. If you'd like to make a motion to that effect, if you get a second, we can take a vote.
Well, I don't think 2 weeks would do the job that I'm talking about. I'm talking about an open council meeting, but maybe like Morgan said, 6 months with the RFP is good for. Maybe by that time we'll have open council meetings.
Do you want to make a proposal then that we put this off until there is an open council meeting?
I would like to do that. I'd make that proposal.
Is there a second for that? I'm sorry, there's no second for that. I'd like to make a motion then that we continue on and make this decision today as proposed. Is there a second for that?
Second. This is Gary.
Second. Angela?
Mayor Wells, your vote, please.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ortiz.
My vote is yes.
Council Member Goebel.
Yes.
Council Member Kendrick.
Yes.
Council Member McClellan.
No.
Motion carries by a 4-1 vote with Council Member McClellan voting no.
Okay. Then, Graham, are you taking it from here?
Well, I'm going to turn it over in just a second, but I want to introduce Dirk Epperson, our Public Works Director, and Richard Tagore Irwin, our consultant from R3 Consulting Group, Inc. Our gentlemen, I'll give the time to you.
Okay, perfect. Hopefully you can all hear me okay, and really appreciate this opportunity to discuss this. I want to go into a little bit of the history and kind of talk about where we are and where we've been on this. It's very important that we do so. And if you remember, Waste Management or its original company, Universal Refuse Removal, has been providing solid waste franchise services since 1977. Most recently renegotiated in 1994. And so what we saw was that the current franchise agreement expires on December 31st of this year, at the end of this year. So back in 2018, I came before you all, presented a council item, and in June of 2018, council directed us to proceed with procuring a new franchise, and we outlined a schedule for doing so. At that time, we had said that March of 2020 is when we needed to be before you, and due to some issues that we've had along the way, we're here 2 months late, so we are kind of pushing the timeline here. In August of 2019, City Council awarded the RFP that we brought for consultant services, and you awarded that RFP to R3. Now, I'll introduce R3 to you in just a little bit, but I also wanted to make mention that Waste Management's lease agreement for Bradley property was agreed upon late last year, and it was at Waste Management's request that we separate that from the franchise RFP process, just as a little bit of background and history. So I come to you, and why R3? Why are they the people that we selected, and why are they here to help us through this process? And I'm going to introduce you to Richard Tagore Irwin in just a few moments, but I wanted to let you know that R3, they were selected among 3 consultants who competitively bid to be our consultant and hand walk us through this process, because we don't know what we don't know, and we wanted to make sure that we as a city were using an unbiased and very clean procedure to go through this. Again, we started almost 2 years ago in 2018 with this whole process. We wanted to make sure that we methodically thought through this, that we kept council in the loop as we move forward. And so R3, they have 20 plus years of experience doing this exact thing. They provide services exclusively to public agencies. There's no conflict of interest or favoritism. They're always fair and objective to cities and haulers. They've worked with most of the haulers throughout the state. In fact, they have over 100 RFP negotiations under their belt for the state of California, from very small to very large California agencies, the cities, counties, districts, all sorts of different procurement processes. They have helped walk people through this. And I love some of these photos here because it shows them actually getting down and dirty. That's Richard there that I'm going to introduce right now in the white white Tyvek suit, sifting through recyclables. And so without further ado, I'd like to turn some time over to Richard Tagore Irwin to kind of explain some of the process and how we developed the outcome that we're at today.
Good afternoon, Richard Tagore Irwin with R3. Can everybody hear me all right?
Yes,
okay.
Richard.
I wanted to hit the schedule a little bit. I think that was one of the earlier discussion topics of kind of where we are and where this started. As Dirk has mentioned, we are about 2 months behind. We've had to get additional clarification from the vendors, which really has pushed the award date out until now. This is a point of information. The RFPs, when they were issued, they had a 180-day validity date. That validity date expires June 13th. So that's sort of the window that you have before you would have to go back and ask them to extend their proposal due dates. So that's kind of where we are. Hopefully tonight we can get this moving forward. The transition period is about 6 months, and that is critical for as smooth a transition as you can have for ordering trucks, for ordering containers, for going out and doing the rest of the route audits, to making sure all of the customer service pieces match the billing records, the billing sheets, and equipment is ready to start, so you're ready to start services January 1st. And this really applies to all the vendors, whether it's the incumbent Waste Management or EDCO or Republic. All of them are going to be doing similar activities to start. So all of them had actually in their proposals had started their transition back in April, so they could have a smooth transition starting January 1st. We're at a point now where you need to move forward. Okay, next slide. So the process was pretty straightforward. We had 3 proposals from 3 different companies, and all 3 companies are very reputable. EDCO, primarily housed in the San Diego area. Republic Services, which is national, and Waste Management, which is also national. Waste Management is the largest in the U.S. Republic is the second largest. EDCO is one of the largest independents in California. There's a 5-member review panel that went through every page of the proposals, and there are inches and inches of material we had to go through. We had people from R3, myself and Carrie Baxter were on the scoring side, and then we had 3 individuals from the city who also were part of the review process, the interview process, and did the scoring as well. Next slide. And in terms of a couple of drivers that are occurring that the city really should be aware of, that is changing your services. And it has a profound impact on your new services that you're going to have starting January 1st, and unfortunately, the cost impact on your ratepayers. Legislation's been, the legislature changes legislation that requires more and more activities done at the local level. The ones that are on the books now that the city has some compliance with, but is not in full compliance, AB 341, which is mandatory commercial recycling. That's been on the books for about 5 years. You're in about 70% compliance on that now, so you have some ways to go. AB 1826, which is mandatory commercial organics, which very similar. It's the food waste and the organic materials out of the commercial multifamily stream has to be also recovered. The city is not in compliance with that requirement and has received a letter from Cal Recycle saying you need to get that in compliance. AB 1594, it's been in place for about 5 years also. And that's pretty simple that prior to January 1st, 2020, you could take your green waste and you could have it used as alternative daily cover. It was a very, very low cost way of getting diversion. That's gone. So January 1st of this year, it now has to be composted to get diversion credit from Cal Recycle. Next slide. The big one, the really large piece of legislation, which is a real game changer for every city, every county, every jurisdiction in California, is SB 1383, and that is the greenhouse gas reduction. How it applies to solid waste activities is the legislature set some goals and requirements that by January 1st, 2020, on a statewide basis, there'd be a 50% reduction in organics being disposed at landfill. The state has not met that goal. We're not even close. July 2020, there are measurement tools in process now. Again, that's in process now. January 1st, 2022, there are requirements that if the cities do not have ordinances in place and they're not monitoring the contracts and they're not monitoring their generators, they can be fined. The cities can be fined for noncompliance. January 2024, that expands out, where it's not only the cities that can be fined for noncompliance, the generators can be fined for noncompliance. So it's hitting hard. I will tell you that the majority of the cities throughout the state are struggling with this law. Everybody's trying to ramp up as quickly as possible. But keep in mind that for jurisdictions, when those fines hit in the low end, it's as high as $10,000 a day for noncompliance. The generators, it's $50 to $500 per day for noncompliance. The state's been pretty adamant about pushing this. There was a lot of requests to the state to relax the rules. They have not relaxed the rules as of today. Next slide. So again, the key legislation on January 1st, you have to provide election, January 1st, 2022, you have to have organics collection to all residents and businesses. It's not just green waste. It's now food waste included as well. So that's a new program that your residents going to be asking to participate in starting next January. Your commercial businesses are technically supposed to be participating in that now. They just have not been doing it. It now goes from more of a voluntary to a mandatory piece. Along with that is the containers have to be labeled for what goes in them. You have to conduct community outreach, contamination monitoring, and enforcement. Okay. Next slide. So the franchise agreement and the RFP was crafted specifically to get the city and your generators being your residential customers and your business community, be in compliance with state law so no one gets fined. So it's a very strong emphasis on legislative requirements, bundling recycling and organics. So all customers have availability to recycle and have the organics provided to them. The facilities are all fully permitted and they can handle the city's waste stream during the term of the contract. New carts and vehicles at the beginning of the contract. So you'll have a new fleet out there ready to go for the next 20 years. Some protections for your ratepayers. It's an annual CPI floor and cap, a 1% floor and a 4% cap. It should keep your rates pretty darn consistent throughout the term of the contract. Other things we added in was much substantially higher insurance requirements and a performance bond of about $2.5 million to cover in case there's a default of the contract. Now, a little bit on why customer rates are increasing. No one likes to hear it, but it's just a fact of life. From Cal Recycle's perspective, with the new regulations, they were written specifically to meet the statewide targets. They did not take into account local cost. Okay, they have penalties for generators in cities for non-compliance. Currently, or actually until this last January, good faith effort was what was allowable at the city level. So even though the city currently is not in compliance with some of the legislative requirements, the city was making good faith effort, and Cal Recycle was okay with that. That is no longer an appropriate response, and Cal Recycle will not accept good faith effort anymore. You have to have the programs, period. So again, it's real simple things like the current agreement says the waste management of the contractor shall offer the programs. The new agreement and the new legislation says they must provide them. There's a big, big difference in how that's being done. Okay. In terms of the evaluation criteria, we looked at qualifications, technical approach, sustainability, and service rates to the customer. And those were all scored by the 5 individuals on the panel. We did discuss all of the proposals together. We met together. We discussed the qualifications, the technical aspects, answered questions. But when it came to scoring the proposals, all of us individually scored their proposals, and then it was compiled out. Okay, so we didn't sit in a room and score them. We all individually did it, so it's very objective, I think, across the board. And one thing is it was very consistent, the scoring all the way across from all 5 vendors, our evaluation panels. Now, if you look at the composite scores, it was very close. EDCO was just slightly higher than Waste Management. Republic was substantially lower than both EDCO and Waste Management. Okay. In terms of qualifications on EDCO, they are very experienced in San Diego County. They provide similar services throughout the county and very close to the city. They are in compliance with Cal Recycle currently with all of their other cities in San Diego County, which is a very good thing. Reference checks for EDCO were very positive. Again, they do more than was required. They do the community outreach. They do the special events and helping with your nonprofits and other community activities that that Waste Management is doing now. We would anticipate them continuing to provide those free services. They have a local operations center, which is an important thing. And they basically own all of their post-collection operation, i.e. they own their diversion facilities. And so they're going to be using their own facilities. So they scored slightly higher than Waste Management on this, very, very close. Waste Management, very qualified company. Republic scored, as you can see, substantially lower. Next slide. On the technical approach, again, EDCO did score higher. They have a very large, what's called material recovery facility infrastructure in the region. So they're not taking recoverable materials as far to get processed, which is a positive thing on the greenhouse gas impact of transportation. Again, new carts and trucks at the start of the contract, they're going to be using renewable natural gas that they're going to be reclaiming from their own organics processing facilities. One thing is they are starting the mixed organics collection a year earlier than is strictly required. So that'll help the city in its compliance issues, as well as I think it's pretty consistent with, you had an earlier agenda item on your consent calendar for your climate action plan, sustainability plan. I think it's very consistent with what was in there. One of those items was increased diversion. Their trucks, and this is really very important, their trucks use a lot more telemetrics to track down where they are, GPS tracking where they are, and an account of what time of the day, cameras on board, so they're tracking all the accounts, and so they know what's going in the truck, what time it is, so they can always find their equipment. Again, they scored a little higher than Waste Management on this, and substantially higher than Republic. Okay, sustainability, again, their facilities and what they proposed was they had a very strong culture of sustainability and high recovery rates. Your recovery within the city is going to more than double from what it currently is now under EDCO, so you're going to have a substantially higher diversion from landfill. They are going to provide a dedicated sustainability manager that only is accountable only to the city of El Cajon. They work for you. Very clearly tailored public education outreach materials. And another added benefit that they are provided is if residential customers ask for an additional recycling cart, one will be provided free, 2 will be provided free, and organics carts additional would be provided for free. EDCO scored highest on this one out of all three of the companies. Okay. And again, this is a little chart that they had provided in terms of how their greenhouse gas issues, how they attack it, and they're really using kind of a carbon neutral approach. They're not wanting to have anything, their net overall operations contributing to the greenhouse gas effect. Again, they're going to be using renewable natural gas to fuel their fleet. Next slide. Service rates, a lot more complicated because it's not one number for everything. It's when you have multiple numbers for residential, multiple numbers for commercial. You have commercial organics, commercial recyclables, commercial trash, all of that in frequencies. It's a very complicated process to do that. But overall, EDCO's rates were lower than the other two vendors, the other two proposers. And over the term of the contract, there's a pretty substantial savings over the term of the contract. Okay, next slide. So typical residential customer is, you're at $24.60 per month. You are scheduled to have a small rate increase July 1st, so your current rates are going to go up about 2.35%. Their proposal is through December 31st, 2022, so that is a pretty long rate period of no additional rate increase. It's going to be $25.89 for that 2-year period. Both Waste Management and Republic were higher, and their first rate increase would be a shorter period of time too. So EDCO is pushing back their rate increase an additional 6 months for all their customers. Okay. So kind of sort of looking at some lows, some highs, and some average rates. The low is 22 in National City. Again, they're going to be undergoing some contract negotiations to get their contract all up to the standards they're going to have to have. High in Chula Vista, I think they just went through theirs. You see that's a fairly high rate. The average is 27.97. You're going to be lower than the average, and in 2 years from now, you're going to be substantially lower than the average because those other rates are going to be going up. Commercial?
Quick question. Was that with regard to EDCO's rates, those averages?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep. Next. Same thing on the commercial. It's a lot more complicated. You can't just look at the trash rate. You have to look at the trash rate, the recycling rate, and the organics rate all combined because it's a bundled service. Your commercial customers, same as your residential customers, they have to have all three service lines. Okay, there are some exemptions for very low quantity organics customers, but that don't generate organics. But pretty much all of your commercial customers are going to have to change their subscription levels and include organics and recycling. So you have to really look at all three of those combined to get a full customer bill. And when you combine them all, 3 cubic yard trash, 96 recycling, 64 organics, which is sort of the default size, EDCO was a little bit lower cost than the other two, but they're all pretty close on the commercial. But one thing, no matter how you can get away from it, the commercial customer, the rate for the commercial customer is going to increase. Next slide. And similar on the lows, the highs, sort of the average. The low is substantially lower. That's not a bundled rate. The high is a bundled rate. You know, your average, you're pretty close to the average. In 2 years, you're going to be at the average. So what's going to happen? Unfortunately, you're out of the gate a little earlier than some of the other communities. Everybody's going to catch up very, very quickly, and then your rate package is going to look pretty darn favorable because you do have rate caps in place. Next slide.
So before we move on, just one thing I wanted to mention is these are the rates based on the proposed commercial franchise rate being applied to the contract. So during the implementation stage, after we select, we do have some flexibility there to look at the franchise rate for commercial. And so right now it's showing that on average, compared to 11 other cities in the county, in 2 years, we would be $4 higher than the average. If we wanted to play with that a little bit, we could also have some flexibility there with our franchise rate, and which would ultimately affect the rate to the customer. So we can look at that as well.
Dirk, when you say the franchise rate, you're talking about the city's part of the revenue.
The franchise fee, yes.
The franchise fee. The city has some discretion on the amount that would charge any service provider during a startup or whatever. Okay, this is not EDCO taking, or the proposal.
Correct.
City's portion. Okay, got it.
Correct, sir. Go ahead, Richard.
Okay. So there are other services that are related to the new agreement, like a trip charge, dry run. If they have to go back out because the bin was blocked, there is a charge associated with that. a restarter service if somebody doesn't pay their bill and then their service is restarted, setup fees to start a new account, delivery charge for a bin, removal of a bin, exchange fees in addition to just the free ones, the use of a Scout or Stinger truck, which is the little picker trucks that picks up the bin because the truck can't, the big collection truck can't service the bin, recycling contamination charges. Those are all charges that are in most contracts, and EDCO has basically put zeros on most of those, where the other two vendors have a charge associated with it. The charges that your customers are likely to get that is directly related to the outreach and sustainability coordinator is recycling contamination, because you want to have that recycling contamination. You don't want to have that. So there's a lot of emphasis being placed in the educational efforts to make sure the recyclables are clean. The reality it is, if you have contaminated recyclables, it does cost. There's a higher cost associated with that. Usually one fine pretty much cleans it up. Another area where we've seen this throughout the state is overages, particularly on the commercial side, where they downsize their container trying to save some money, and then all of a sudden it's not enough volume and they have piles of trash on the bins and around the bins. Typically, there's an overage charge on that. EDCO has agreed not to have an overage charge. They'll just clean it up and pick it up, which is a very good thing for your customers. On the one hand, it's a very bad thing from the customers because they need to learn to do the right thing. Okay. The savings, and again, these are estimated savings at the proposed rates and at the current customer service over the next 20 years. And so it's about $74 million swing, a lower cost to your customers that EDCO would be providing compared to the other vendors. So that's a substantial savings over time. Okay. And in terms of transition, you will have a transition. You will have a transition regardless if you take EDCO or retained waste management, because the commercial services are changing. All of your commercial customers are going to have a different type of service, different service levels going forward. EDCO provided a very detailed task-oriented plan. I mean, it was very detailed on what they're going to do from day 1 to day 20 to day 120, all the way out till basically April of 2021, when everything's fully implemented. It takes some time to do that. Extensive public education and outreach. This goes back to that education and outreach. It starts now. Once an award is made, they've scheduled about 10 different public meetings to have, or community meetings to have. Of course, this was done pre-COVID, so I think they're going to have to work around how they're going to get that done. But there is an extensive public education program to get all this done, to make sure people start with the right size containers and do the right thing in the right containers. Recycle right is going to be kind of one of the mottos. New carts, zero collection fleet, because they're using basically they're recycling the gas off of their anaerobic digester to fuel their fleet. A full-time dedicated sustainability representative, and they do have some very good recent successful transitions elsewhere. So they do have a proven track record for transitions. Okay. Next slide. Dirk?
Thank you, Richard. Really appreciate that thorough report and all your help during this process. It's definitely been a long journey here, and we are certainly grateful for your expertise that you bring to the table. We've definitely gone through this process with eyes wide open, trying to look at everything from a fair point of view. And so now we bring this recommendation to the City Council. One cool thing that I wanted to point out, Richard mentioned about the renewable natural gas. And with the new organics legislation, the organics or the food waste, everything that you would normally scrape off the plate as you're cutting up dinner, and strawberry tops or lettuce ends or something like that, you'd normally put into your garbage bin, will go into your green bin along with your yard waste and stuff like that. And EDCO has 2 facilities that really impress us, where they will take that organic material, the yard waste, the tree clippings, the strawberry toppings, the lettuce, all your food scraps, and they'll put it through an anaerobic digester. Now, I'm no expert on this, but I do know that it is possible because it's being done elsewhere, but they would take that and turn it into renewable natural gas, and they're planning on reusing those scraps and the fuel that it generates to fuel their fleet. So you can imagine your table scrap turns into the fuel that powers the trash truck driving down the street. that is pretty cool. Wanted to point that out, and they're not the only ones doing it, but that's what they're proposing, and it's just a really neat opportunity there. So I bring this recommendation to adopt the resolution authorizing the city manager to sign and execute a new 20-year franchise agreement with EDCO starting July 1st, 2021. That date is important because we have a lot of new regulations coming into play here that we need to comply with and get in compliance with. And the recommendation to have city staff and EDCO to begin coordination of service changes and education outreach, as well as direct city staff to modify current municipal code for legislative compliance and to support franchise services. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, Council, do you have any questions of our guests before we go to public comment?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Bob.
The chart that you showed what was it, $75 million difference between the two?
Yes.
That would be a substantial savings for our citizens, which is a good thing.
Yep.
And I think that would sway my decision.
Steve?
So, how did you calculate the savings or the lifetime value of this contract?
So we did it two different ways. We have your current customer counts now and service levels, okay, and we plugged in the proposed rates into those current customer counts and service levels, and then applied the CPI, the maximum CPI, okay, because we don't know if it's going to be 1% or 4%, but we applied it out. That was the differential over time was the $74 million.
So to clarify, to be sure for me, you're saying you took the existing baseline usage today in terms of number of accounts and what service they had and what charges they incur, and you applied the rates from each of the three bidders.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's
we also took their revenue projections from each of the bidders, so we used their numbers to pressure test the methodology that we were using. So we had requested revenue projections from each of the bidders. So each of them independently gave us their own numbers for 20 years, and we pressure tested against that. We also ran it a different way, and we didn't want to overload the slideshow because we felt like we had a lot in there as it was. But we also looked at projected customer service levels. So as we move forward, some customers who have lots of trash and very little recycling will go to more recycling and less trash. So there is a different way of looking at it. And when we did that, the difference was over 100 million over 20 years.
So I get the part where by adding the bio waste, it really adds a new level of cost. So a commercial account owner today who has just a trash and a recycle dumpster is going to see his rates go up quite a bit. He's going to ask, but I don't have any bio waste. Why is mine going up so much?
There are exemptions allowable, and this goes back to the city is going to have to put in place an ordinance to allow this, one to guide it and to allow it. And the exemptions are for if they can demonstrate that they have no organics in their trash, they can be exempted out from just the organics portion of it. So they wouldn't have to have that portion of the rate. But the organics, I think it's 20 gallons per week collection. That's what it is. It's not a whole lot. It's a very low threshold. Keep in mind, organics is not just food waste, it's also paper products. So, the individual, the business that's going to get probably hit the hardest, frankly, is a business that just has trash only, that does not have recycling or organics. They're going to have to really reconfigure what they're doing. This is where it's really important for the city and EDCO to work hand in hand when they're out rolling out this new programs with the customer service and their sustainability rep to right size the commercial business's accounts. If a commercial business has 4 cubic yards of trash now and no recycling organics, they don't need 4 cubic yards of trash going in the future. They're going to lower their trash size. They're going to increase their recycling, increase their organics, and substantially lower their trash. So that should help them moderate their overall bill. It should not just be add. It should be subtract and add.
but net, the model says on average a commercial will come up $100 higher or something.
Yep. The basic commercial trash bill went up substantially.
And how do we explain that $100 to the commercial people?
Yeah, I think what you have is a lot of contracts that have been in place a long time with a CPI escalator. The CPI escalator has not kept pace with the cost escalators that have gone on. CPI is 2.5%. Labor costs have gone up 4, 5, 6%. Fuel has gone up. The cost of a new garbage truck is $350,000. 20 years ago they were $125,000, and the CPI has just not kept pace with that. So in essence, what we've seen in the last several years is when you've gone out to competitive bid, the rates have been in essence realigned to reflect current charges, and unfortunately they're all going up.
And maybe we go back to that slide on the averages. How does El Cajon's proposed rates compare to other cities?
Okay.
Now, Mr. Ortiz said these happen to be EDCO rates only, right?
Actually, the EDCO rate is the El Cajon line. So we're using EDCO's proposed rate to show the El Cajon line there. Something important. Go ahead, Steve.
And what are the other three lines? Are they
We actually looked at rates across the county, whether they be EDCO customers, Republic, or Waste Management, and we took the low, the high, and then the average. And then what we did is we projected with CPI the average over the freeze time that EDCO is holding their rates. And so the average you can see today, it's $231.34, and our proposal is $249. So we're not too far out of the ballpark with what the rest of the county is seeing as far as rates on the commercial. And in 2 years, because of our hold or our freeze on that rate, it's a $4 difference after 2 years.
Would it be accurate to say that among the three bidders, the residential service is pretty much a wash within a buck of each other, but there are differences in the commercial?
That's a fair statement, yes.
And what's your observation on the differences between the three bidders when it comes to commercial?
In terms of they all provide pretty darn good services elsewhere. I think EDCO's focus is more on diversion than disposal. Both Waste Management and Republic, they own landfills, and so they have more of a vertical integrated piece, and so they are in essence trying to use all of their facilities, including the disposal facilities, whereas EDCO, because it does not own landfills, its financial incentives is to keep it out of landfill. So they put more emphasis on diversion.
And EDCO owns or is building their own bio-waste facility?
They own, well, they're building, they have two now, and the second one is in process. It's supposed to be opened up at the very, very early parts of 2021.
I'm trying to figure out kind of part of the cost part of this. Yeah. Do they sub out that facility to other waste haulers?
I believe that they have capacity. They can take tonnage from other haulers. It's a capacity issue.
Yeah. Okay. So they could mark it up to another waste hauler, sure, as a wholesaler of that service in a sense.
They could. And one of the things we did ask for in the proposal process is the vendors need to be able to provide capacity for your materials, for your customers, for the term. It's important because you don't want to have 5 years from now saying, I don't have a place for my recyclables, I got to come back and renegotiate. And hence, that's why the rate structures that you have, it's really just, it's actually called the Water Sewer Trash Index. It's still a nationally publicized index, but it's on the total rate. They don't have the ability to come in and say, my processing costs went up, I need more money, or the China Sword recyclables even dropped even further than it is now, I need more money. They don't have that ability to do that. So they're locked in.
On the ancillary charges page, the other charges,
sure,
do we know between Republic and Waste Management how often they actually charge those, or whether they're discretionary and really never charged?
The recycling contamination charge is being charged quite a bit now. The overage charge, that is something that both companies have been following through with as well. So you do have overage charges. And I think, Dirk, you've had some correspondence on that.
Yeah, we, as the Public Works Department, as the overseers of the contract, we do receive comments quite frequently, and we try to work with those customers. But we do get comments quite frequently about being charged when their dumpster bin is open just slightly because it's overfilled, and so they're charged an overage charge. And in some cases, multiple times a billing cycle and multiple times a month.
The new contract has protocols for how that is tracked. It can't just be an automatic bill. It has to be documented, noticed. The customer has an opportunity to say, I don't agree with you, prove it. It has to be digital. So they have to show visual proof that it is contaminated or there is an overage on it.
Do you think now is a good time to lock in this contract during a economically depressed time? Do you think we might get more favorable rates or opportunities now than if we were to wait 2 or 3 months?
I don't think so. I think actually the proposals were in prior to this really starting to happen. So you've got pretty good numbers now. The other thing that has occurred from 6 months ago, actually 2 years ago, is the whole recycling market is completely cratered. There is just no outlet, viable outlet for a lot of recyclables. The price has dropped. It's a negative number now. And that is one of the reasons the pricing has gone up. And that is across the state. So I think delays, you may end up having worse conditions.
Yeah, if we let this pricing structure expire, like Richard mentioned earlier, in June, the prices that we have will expire. Due to COVID, we don't know what it's going to do when you're working in a MRF, a recycling center, trying to do physical distancing while you're doing that. That may change things and really drive up costs. So regardless, these prices that we have now were given to us prior to COVID and prior to the restrictions that we're seeing. But it's really imperative that we take advantage of this pricing because the grass isn't always greener, and we could see these numbers change drastically as people say the new norm, right? We don't know how that will affect everything, but it can't get better. It'll probably only get worse.
Richard, my final question is, did your study evaluate the value, the qualitative value of a carrier in a marketplace?
I'm not quite sure I can fully understand the question.
Support, donations, response to requests.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Again, Waste Management and Republic are both very, very large national companies. They have a high value. EDCO is one of the largest independent operators in Southern California and in particularly the San Diego region. Good references, good return. They're very responsive.
Okay. All right. That's my questions. Thank you.
Phil, did you have questions?
Yes. Richard, thank you for the comprehensive report and everything you've done for the past however long you've been investigating. We're putting a lot of trust in you with regard to the data that we're receiving as the decision makers. And so just to, not that I'm putting into question your integrity, but maybe just to state it, when you do go through this evaluation process, is it a fresh start with regard to evaluating? Obviously, you've done over 100 of these all along the state. Waste Management Republic, they're huge companies. You've probably encountered them a couple times. Can you speak to that a little bit with regard to existing data that you know from other cities, or if you even use that? Or
It is a fresh start. We don't believe in what Waste Management has provided to us confidentially elsewhere it plays into here. We completely separate that out. We don't think it's fair to them. If you check with Republic and Waste Management both, we have a very good working relationship with both those companies, and we treat them fairly. Same as EDCO, although I haven't had a whole lot of interaction with EDCO. I have with Burtec, which is their other company up that's operating more out of San Bernardino County. But again, we've, over 20 plus years, a lot of contract work with Republic and Waste Management both. We don't have any favorites or biases. They're both good companies. All three of these companies are very good companies.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Gary Kendrick, did you have any questions?
No, I'm good.
Bob, any more questions?
Oh, I think he's answered them all. It looks good.
I have a couple of questions then. In regard to the volatility of the recycling portion of this, does that have to do with China and the way China's buying our recycling?
It's to be opinionated and blunt, it's our own fault. As the consumers of participants in our recycling programs, we've been told for years and years and years recycling's free. It's never been free. It's always been buried into part of the other rates. It's always been, if you have any questions, put it in recycling. Well, it just wasn't true. So we've always been contaminating recyclables. What China did is they finally cracked down and said, you're supposed to be delivering recyclables to me, and you're delivering recyclables and trash. So they basically just said, we cannot take the contaminated materials that we've been providing to them. What the haulers had to do, what the facility operators had to do is they had to adapt. What they've done is they've had to slow down the processing lines. They've had to add more pickers on the lines to get the recyclables cleaned up. The contamination problem is going away because us as consumers, us as participants, and the service providers are all working together to get the contamination down. Problem is the end markets are still overseas. We don't have the secondary processing markets within the U.S. to process the materials.
Is there one of these three companies that has a better chance of complying with the contamination issues?
I think all of them. Obviously, Waste Management is very large, and they have very good outlets international. So does Republic. EDCO has a little cleaner materials. They because they don't have the same market reach that Waste or Republic does. They have to provide cleaner materials. So they have a little different approaches on addressing the market problem.
They've had to do it a little bit earlier than some of these others because of their limitations.
Yep.
Okay. Another question which was similar to that. Of these three companies, do any of them have an advantage in complying with the state of California's guidelines and is more likely to avoid being fined?
I think they're all working towards developing facilities for compliance. They all have educational efforts. They all have staff. They all know what has to be done. I think in this particular case, EDCO provided a better work plan for you to make sure that the city is going to be in compliance and with their local facilities.
Okay.
So, and the ironic part of it is Republic was, in essence, going to deliver their recyclables to EDCO's facilities for recycling.
Oh, yeah. So here's a question, because I don't completely understand the trash industry, but I know that the $75 to $100 million savings that the customer gets, which is very good. There's a franchise fee that the city gets as well. Isn't that true?
Right. Yes, there is.
Are those franchise fees the same with all three companies, or are they different?
It's the same. It's the same across the board.
Okay. So it makes the only thing we're really evaluating is the savings to our customers. Our
right
consumers.
Now, the flip side of it is, if there was more revenue, the city would receive more franchise fee.
Okay.
Because it's a percentage.
All right. Those are all my questions. Council members, any more questions before I go to public comment?
No.
All right, Angela, do we have any speaker cards?
Yes, sir. We received a total of 98 comment cards that were submitted. Some of those people, though, did submit multiple comments, so I'll combine those. I have, sir, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. I would have 38 comments to read to you. In addition to that, I have 31 other cards that were submitted, but those used a template letter, so I can read one of them. And
that works for me.
Okay, so the first comment comes from Christine Costa from Waste Management, and she's a community and municipal manager. And she wrote, "Dear Honorable Mayor and Council members, Waste Management would like to please urge the city to continue agenda item 16 for no less than 30 days and up to 60 days to allow for the resumption of regular public hearings so that the City Council will be able to conduct an in-person public hearing and receive meaningful input from its constituents and stakeholders on this critical long-term contract. We believe this should be sufficient time in light of the County of San Diego's May 7th order lifting some of the restrictions of the prior local orders as to certain businesses and activities with mandated safeguards and signaling are moved into the state's phase 2 of the COVID-19 pandemic. We urge the City Council to continue agenda item 16 because city residents will not be able to meaningfully comment, nor will the City Council be able to fully consider and respond to these important comments in a virtual meeting. Furthermore, the staff's recommendation and report were only filed Friday afternoon for this long-term contract that is one of the largest contracts in dollar value that the city would grant. She continues, this contract affects every person in the community. For a contract of this magnitude and importance, this is insufficient time to review and prepare thoughtful comments on the staff's report, the supporting City Council documents, and the basis for its recommendation. As you are aware, Waste Management has been a long-standing partner with the city, servicing its residential and commercial customers for well over 30 years. During that time, Waste Management has forged deep ties to the community and its residents, delivering service of the highest quality and contributing to the community in many other ways, such as active involvement on the board of directors for the El Cajon Rotary Club, East County Chamber of Commerce, and the Boys and Girls Club. We have demonstrated our support of the great community and its organizations by financial and in-kind donations valued at over $1 million. Additionally, Waste Management has historically invested in new technologies that benefit the environment. El Cajon was the first city in San Diego County where CNG fleets were tested, and now El Cajon is the first city where we are testing electric collection vehicles. Indeed, we are very uniquely situated to continue providing a seamless transition and unparalleled service to the community, commencing with a start date of January 1, 2021 for RFP 01320. Please know that we are not resting on our laurels. Waste Management has worked hard on our response to propose a superior service package with significant enhancements for this long-term contract based on a foundation of our in-depth knowledge of the city and the district needs of its citizens. The proposals of all should be posted and available for public examination. We believe everyone should have a complete review of our proposal as well as the other proposals submitted, with an opportunity to fully and fairly participate during an in-person public hearing. Finally, in response to any concern that a 30 to 60-day continuance should not be granted because it would not allow sufficient time for an orderly transition of services by the January 1st start date, we are happy to agree to a 1 to 2 month extension of our contract if needed. And it says, we thank you for your time and opportunity to speak today. Comment 2, and this was submitted by somebody who didn't provide their name. They says, hello, I live and work in El Cajon as a property supervisor for 24 apartment communities in the area. I'm writing to discuss the distaste I have for Waste Management. The company charges overage fees left and right when anything is above the invisible line at the top of the bin. When asked to upgrade to a larger 4-yard container, they've said that they are on back order. Surprisingly, they've been on back order for over 6 months. I guess it would be hard to charge overage when the bin is not as full. To top it off, the company is now discontinuing its Sunday service. One of the busiest days in the apartment and other housing is weekends. Not collecting trash on Sunday when we are willing to pay for the extra day only adds to a greater chance that trash bins will be overfilled on Monday, thus costing even more overages. I strongly request that you go with the aide's suggestion of EDCO, the long reign of Waste Management doing as it pleases to the thousands of households in El Cajon needs to come to an end. Next comment, again from somebody that did not submit their name Waste Management has been the worst waste removal organization I have ever experienced. I suppose they can treat me like trash because they have a fixed contract in Oceanside where my building is located. I have been dealing with waste management inadequacies since the purchase of my building in 1994. They miss pickups with no consequence or reimbursement to the purchaser. They've damaged my building, of which I had to pay for the repairs. They have tossed away my gate lock for me to find in the bushes weeks later after I had to have another replacement specially made to match the original combination. One time in 20 years, someone overloaded the dumpster so it would not completely close, just a crack. Promise. Restitution by 3 different employees with 3 different confirmation numbers with no avail. I literally had to call Oceanside City Council to help me amend the poor service. I am threatened with extortion when I am told that if I do not pay the poor service, my water will be turned off. I'd get rid of them in a heartbeat if I could. Next comment is from Frank Giordano, and it reads, I have been an apartment property owner in the city of El Cajon for 25 years. Apartment owners have been paying way too much for trash service for a very long time. I notice you are voting to pick a new disposal/trash service company for the city at this meeting. I have been a customer of EDCO and other trash companies you're considering. I can tell you that in my experience, EDCO Disposal is far superior both in customer service and price for service. I highly recommend EDCO Disposal, and I am confident you will be happy with their service and pricing. Thank you for the opportunity to voice my opinion. Next comment is from Mary Case from Crisis House. I am writing in support of keeping waste management in El Cajon. I am disappointed with the decision to recommend another company with such short notice to the public. While we understand city staff is recommending EDCO, we strongly urge more information be provided on this decision and ask that waste management be given a fair opportunity to compete. Only then can the city ensure the best deal possible for residents. Waste Management has been a strong supporter of Crisis House and always prioritizes giving back to the community in whatever way they can. Over the years, Waste Management has been an annual sponsor of our fundraising dinners and events, enabling us to do the work that is so desperately needed in our community. Waste Management was also instrumental in joining the over 200 volunteers who built the Kaboom Playground in December of 2016. We are able to administer a variety of programs for individuals and families experiencing a crisis because of the strong support of partners like Waste Management. I wholeheartedly support the continuation of waste management services in El Cajon and ask you to delay making a decision for 30 days. Next is from Harold Brown from East County Transitional Living Center. And he writes, as CEO and president of the East County Transitional Living Center, I would like to express my disappointment with the consideration of changing service provider for the city of El Cajon with such short notice. The city should provide at least 30 days for residents to learn about different options available to them. This way, they can participate in the public process with informed opinions. This is not possible with a 72-hour notice. Waste Management has been a key community leader in El Cajon for decades. The company has been a strong supporter of our organization. Additionally, our Living Center has been a recipient of the Think Green grant awarded by Waste Management for community improvement. They have also donated recycling containers and food for the annual Mother Goose Parade food drive that they host. Our organization values Waste Management's work in El Cajon, and we would strongly appreciate their continued presence in the community. Please reconsider your decision. Next comment is from Dave Johnston, El Cajon Rotary. On behalf of El Cajon Rotary Club, I would like to thank Waste Management for being an important community partner and environmental steward in El Cajon, and express my disapproval of considering a new service provider for our city, especially during this time. A decision like this should not be done over video conference and without enough time for residents to weigh their opinions and participate in the public process. The city should provide at least 30 days for residents to learn about different proposals. Waste Management has been in the community for more than 40 years and has built a strong relationship with community members. Making this decision without proper public input is not the responsible thing to do. In addition to keeping El Cajon clean, Waste Management is also an active member and contributor to several organizations in El Cajon, including the Rotary. El Cajon Rotary Club is lucky to partner with Waste Management to accomplish shared goals and looks forward to continuing this partnership in the future. I strongly suggest you reconsider your decision. Thank you for your time. Next comment is from Chris Ramwell, and he is the president of the El Cajon Valley Lions Club. And he writes, on behalf of the El Cajon Valley Lions Club, I would like to thank Waste Management for being an important community partner and environmental steward in El Cajon, and express my disapproval of considering a new service provider for our city, especially during this time. I believe the next paragraph is the same as the previous, but he adds, in addition to helping keep El Cajon clean, Waste Management is also an active member and contributor to several organizations in El Cajon, including the Lions Club. And we are lucky to partner with Waste Management to accomplish shared goals and look forward to continuing this in the future. Next comment is from Deborah Emerson from St. Madeleine Sophie Center. On behalf of St. Madeleine Sophie Center, I am writing to express my disagreement with the decision to recommend a new service provider. It is already very tough for residents to fully engage in the public process amid the many impacts of COVID-19 on our lives, and adequate notice and information sharing is more important than ever, especially for our elderly and vulnerable populations that face the most challenges. Waste Management is an important community member with a long track record providing outstanding service to El Cajon. They have been a wonderful partner to our organization and many others throughout the region. Waste Management is an asset to El Cajon and its residents, and I am pleased to support their continued operations. I urge you to make the right choice by delaying the decision, allowing residents more time to participate in the public process. The next card was submitted by Joe Alegria, and Ms. Alegria actually submitted 4 comment cards. And with your permission, I will read the latest one unless you instruct me to read all of them. She writes, thank you. I believe the public needed more information in order to participate in the decision-making process for selecting a service provider for El Cajon. I understand that the city is trying to accommodate public comments and participation virtually. However, this decision will impact all residents, and we need more time to have informed opinions on this issue. I ask the city to please delay this decision. Next comment is by Gene Breeser. He also submitted 2 public comment cards. And it reads, I'm concerned to hear that the city staff is recommending a different service provider for El Cajon. Many of our community members are facing challenges while in quarantine. It is not feasible for any of our residents to participate in the public process. Elderly and vulnerable populations need timely and adequate information to fully engage in the process. I ask the city to delay this decision for at least 30 days. I also believe that Waste Management should be allowed to continue their service in our community. The company has been here doing an outstanding job for as long as I can remember. Not only are their workers great at what they do, they are extremely active members and residents of our community. You know as well as I do that Waste Management sponsors many groups and organizations in town, and they're always, They're always involved in making our city better. Moving on from such a reliable company with such little public information on our options is not El Cajon's best interest. I urge you to allow more time for this decision and choose the best deal for the city. The next submitter, Ramona Balmer, submitted 3 cards, and her last card reads, and I respectfully request that the city give the community more time to weigh in on any decision related to waste hauling services. Such a large contract with major impacts for residents should be given careful public consideration. Quarantine has already made access to information and public participation difficult. especially for our elderly. Please consider giving the community more information on its available options in at least 30 days, or until a normal public hearing can be held at City Hall before moving forward on such a critical decision. Let's see, the next card is from Debbie George, and Ms. George submitted 4 cards. The last card she submitted reads, I believe the city needs to give more advance notice when making such big decisions like changing service providers. I ask you to consider postponing a decision until the public has had time to look at the options available and can contribute to the decision-making process. Next card is from Jeffrey Hatfield, and he submitted 2 public card comments. The last one reads, it is already very tough for residents to fully engage in the public process amid the many impacts of COVID-19 on our lives. And adequate notice and information sharing is more important than ever, especially for our elderly. Please delay any decision regarding service provider contracts in El Cajon by at least 30 days to give residents the opportunity to really engage in the public process and understand their options. Ms. Anna Holmes submitted 2 cards, and last one reads, please hear me, EDCO is not the same classification as waste management. I have a rental home in Spring Valley, and EDCO along with Republic Service provide poor service to that region. Also, both of the companies are more expensive and provide fewer accommodations for large item pickups. As a result, more appliances and furniture are placed in the streets and are public health problems throughout Spring Valley. I believe the public needed more information in order to participate in the decision-making process for selecting a service provider for El Cajon. I understand that the city is trying to accommodate public comments and participation virtually. However, this decision will impact all residents and we need more time to make an informed decision. Not all residents have access to the internet or know how to apply technology for public comment. This method is unfair to them. I ask the city to please not change from waste management. Next comment is from Tiffany McHugh, who submitted 2 cards. I would like to express my concern with the decision to recommend a different service provider without more public notice and engagement. I appreciate the city's effort to incorporate virtual engagement tools to continue to allow the public to participate. However, I believe the decision to choose service providers should be made with more public input. Waste Management has been more resident service provider for more than 30 years. A decision to change this relationship should be better communicated to residents so they can engage in the process. I believe Waste Management is the best choice for El Cajon. Their drivers already know our city, our streets, our city operations and ordinances. Let's keep things running smoothly. I ask the city to delay this decision for at least 30 days. Next card was submitted by Audrey Ross, who submitted 3 cards. It is already very tough for residents to fully engage in the public process amid the many impacts of COVID-19 in our lives, and adequate notice and information sharing is more important than ever, especially for our elderly. Please delay any decision regarding service provider contracts in El Cajon by at least 30 days to give residents the opportunity to really engage in the public process. Next is from Michael Smith, who submitted 2 cards. I believe the public needed more information in order to participate in the decision-making process for selecting a service provider for El Cajon. I understand that the city is trying to accommodate public comments and participation virtually. However, this decision will impact all residents and we need more time to have informed opinions on this issue. I ask the city to please delay this decision. Next comment is from Andrew Spear, who submitted 2 cards. On behalf of our community, please consider issuing a 30-day continuance of any hearing related to waste hauling contracts so the community can fully engage in the public process and residents and the council have time to hear and consider the best options possible for the city. Next is from Amy Spear, who submitted 3 cards. I am concerned that the hearing on waste hauling services was scheduled with too little time for residents to sincerely engage on such an important decision and with too little information available to determine the best options possible for the city. Please consider issuing a continuance of this hearing and give residents at least 30 and more information on our options so we can fully engage in the public process and ensure the best deal possible for the city. We have about 18 more cards. The next one is from Lynn Spicer, who submitted 2 cards. Waste Management is an important community member with a 30-plus year track record of outstanding service to El Cajon. While we understand city staff is recommending EDCO, we strongly urge more information be provided on this decision and ask that Waste Management be given a fair opportunity to compete. Only then can the city ensure the best deal possible for residents. I ask that you please consider continuing a hearing by at least 30 days to afford us the opportunity to fully engage in the public process, and thank you for considering this request. Next comment is from Nicholas Wagner, who submitted 3 cards. I am disappointed at the decision to recommend an outside company for our city with such short notice. I believe a decision like this needs more time and input from our community members. I encourage the city to delay any council decision by at least 30 days and allow the public to learn more about the options available so that we can participate in the public process and make our voices heard. Rushing this decision is not wise. I also believe Waste Management is the best option for our city. The company is deeply invested in the community and is well connected with organizations and community groups in El Cajon. They have shown that they are always willing to roll up their sleeves and help out their neighbors. I strongly recommend that you delay this decision, review all the options to choose the best deal for the community. Thank you. Next is submitted Chris George, and Mr. George submitted 2 cards. Waste Management has been a tremendous partner throughout the years with significant presence within the community. They have supported our mission and have provided outstanding service to residents throughout the 30 years they have been in El Cajon. Please allow Waste Management to continue serving our community, and thank you for your time and consideration. The next card is from Rachel Murani. Good afternoon. Waste Management is the best choice for El Cajon. The company has been a community partner for over 30 years. Their local team is minutes away and has proven to provide personable and customized assistance. I strongly urge you to choose Waste Management as a continued service provider. Next is Frederick Robotom. I have lived at my house in El Cajon since 1979. I am extremely satisfied with Waste Management. They have always been extremely responsible anytime I have contacted them over the years. Both the service delivered and the company image are head and shoulders above that of any other company seeking this contract. I feel this would be a regression in services and unforced error by the City Council if you follow staff's direction to engage another company. Waste Management has a proven track record providing excellent services to El Cajon residents and businesses, and a long history serving as a key community partner for local organizations. I believe they are the best option to serve El Cajon, and I urge you to make the right decision by allowing them to continue to work in our community. The next card comes from Kathy Seaman, who submitted 2 cards. Waste Management has a proven track record providing excellent services to the El Cajon residents and businesses, and a long history serving as a key community partner for local organizations. I believe they are the best option to serve El Cajon, and I urge you to make the right decision by allowing them to continue to work in our community. Next card is from... Actually, there's no name to this card, but it says, for excellent community involvement and giving back, I would suggest keeping Waste Management. Thank you. Next comment card is also from a no-name person. First, in order to post a comment, the common person needs to dig on the public website and click 6 times and open a work document that navigates the citizen to a link with a cryptic designation on the subject matter. In example, award RFP 013-20 is supposed to mean that the city is going to discuss a change from Waste Management to EDCO. I'm very concerned that this is very far from allow ease of access public to full public comment. Some will make it through. The elderly are the most affected, I believe will not. California has a statute that requires public bodies to allow for public comments at meetings. California Government Code 549-54.3a. A California citizen brought suit alleging that the state's sunshine laws or open meeting laws required public comments at every meeting of a public body, not just a comment section on each agenda. Without opening the city up for a lawsuit, I would urge the council to consider shelving such an important matter for after the pandemic. This was the reflections of the public, and the citizens may hear it in full. You should consider providing a company that has stood by El Cajon for more than 40 years a respectful and full council meeting. Second, as a citizen that volunteers and is a board member of several nonprofit organizations, I would like to offer my personal concern for the groups I participate in, such as CASA, El Cajon Chambers, St. Madeleine Sophie's, Elks Lodge, Rotary, Run East County, ECTLC, Women in Leadership, Crisis House, Leadership East County, and Salvation Army, all whom benefit by helping families because of the over 40 years and millions of dollars that Waste Management has spent just in the last 10 years in El Cajon. This benefit to children and families is worth more than the 11 cents per citizen that is the difference of this contract. Third and finally, Waste Management runs zero-emission vehicles and has current facilities already online to deal with the new regulations from the state. This makes them worth a larger consideration because El Cajon has remained steadfast by not supporting monopolies. With EDCO and most of San Diego, the monopoly is obvious, and we would urge that the El Cajon head the actions of Ronald Reagan when he classified the phone monopoly and introduced competition. Thus, we have cell phones, wireless, smart devices. Competition provides the best results. Next is a comment from somebody who didn't provide their name. As workers of Waste Management, it is a privilege to serve the community of El Cajon in this time. My fellow workers and I have volunteered with countless community organizations, cheered at our wonderful parades, and tirelessly serve our friends and neighbors. We truly feel at home with Waste Management in El Cajon and care about its residents because they are also our friends, family, and neighbors. Unfortunately, it has come to our attention that the city will recommend letting go of Waste Management. You can imagine our gut feeling at learning Waste Management may be transitioned out of the community it knows and loves. Over the last few weeks, many of us have been on the front lines during the COVID-19 crisis, keeping our community clean and safe. Our spirits have been lifted by the many notes, signs, and letters from our customers, posted from windows, waste containers, and written in sidewalk chalk to express thanks. It's been unbelievably heartening to see people taking the extra time and effort to find innovative ways to communicate a message to our drivers, despite challenges posted by a worldwide pandemic. El Cajon continues to amaze us and remind us every day that we got into this business to engage with people. These gestures of outreach also remind us how, now more than ever, it's important to find ways to reach people and share information in the face of quarantine barriers. We know that things are a little different right now, but we're asking that you please consider the thousands of residents who are already facing tremendous challenges while in quarantine, especially the elderly. It is tough for citizens to fully engage in the public process, and with such an enormous contract with major implications for our community, we would hope that we could present our case in front of them as well. Waste Management drivers know El Cajon, its streets, its operations, and ordinances, and most importantly, its people, better than anyone. We're confident that no one else is committed to providing personal and customized assistance to your constituents, or as we know them, our friends and neighbors. That is why we're hoping you will please issue a 30-day continuance so the community we serve and are able to fully engage in the public process. And residents and the council have time to hear and consider the best options possible for the city. After all, we consider El Cajon our home and are committed to delivering the best value, not just in operational service, but in community service. Thank you for your time and consideration, and it's actually signed from Carlos Figueroa, a 32-year employee, joined by 80 more of his colleagues. The next card is from Joe Mackey. And he wrote, Waste Management has been a long-time community treasure for El Cajon and the surrounding area. They have always helped with any nonprofit charitable event when asked. Their leadership has shown in many ways, with Christine Costa being the president-elect of the Rotary Club, B.O.D. Santee, and now chair-elect for the East County Chamber of Commerce. They have always done their best to support local businesses with their purchases. To not continue with Waste Management contract would be a slap in the face to their generosity and commitment to El Cajon. It would be a bad precedent to set for other local businesses that service the city of El Cajon and serve their community and public service. Next is from Jeff Malik. I am a property manager in El Cajon and other areas. The fee charged within the city of El Cajon for the same service is about double what I can negotiate with an open market of several trash companies. I urge you to allow each other to contact picking up on their own. The current monopoly costs property owners more money, which is passed on to tenants in the form of higher rents.
Angela, where are we at right now?
We have, sir, about 1, 2, 3, about 7 or 8 more comments.
Does anybody need a break before, or should we just plow through?
That'd be nice just for a couple minutes.
All right, we'll take a 5-minute break and we'll come back and continue at that point.
Thank you, Mayor. So again, we have 8 more cards.
Great.
And the next one is from Chris Durkee, who submitted 3 cards. The last one reads, please delay any decision on waste hauling services by at least 30 days so the public has a chance to examine its options and really engage in the process, resulting in the best deal possible for the city. At a minimum, I ask that the city please allow this additional time to help educate and thoroughly engage residents on the process. Unfortunately, this is not possible through a virtual hearing that followers on the city's email list learned about on Friday evening, and that the vast majority of residents remain unaware of, especially our elderly and vulnerable populations still facing tough quarantine challenges. Please consider giving us more time and sufficient information on our options so we have the ability to engage in a proper public process, and thank you for your considerations. Next card is from Ryan Sayer, who submitted 2 cards. Please, you know what? This is actually the very same comment that was made from the last gentleman, so I think I'll skip that. The next comment is from Chris Durkee, which he had already submitted a card. The next one is from Chad Bramwell. And he writes, my name is Chad Bramwell, and I am a resident of the city of El Cajon. In addition, I own and manage apartment buildings in the city of El Cajon. I would highly recommend EDCO Trash Service for the next contract with the city. Waste Management is the most unfair company to do business with. I have had nothing but issues with their extra fees, with the extra fees they collect. Next is from... There's no name. I have been happy with Waste Management Services for the 15 years that they have serviced my residents. My concern with this proposal is that there is no indication that EDCO will not be offering curbside pickup of large items, for example, a couch, for free. This is a service Waste Management offered in their services twice a year. Another service is dumpsters for rent for property cleanup at a reasonable rate. The next card is from Christine Lamarca, and it says, in response to Steve's concern, commercial properties know that in conformity with state law, we knew there would be costs associated with complying with those laws. As a commercial property / multifamily apartment operator, what we object to is the nickel and dime charges that Waste Management has felt free to charge for decades that make it impossible to budget into our rents. The slide with the charges for all the non-standard pickup was evidence of exactly what I am referring to with the charges Waste Management is comfortable charging that EDCO does not charge. I am firmly recommending EDCO, who has been a fabulous provider at our properties in the unincorporated areas in La Mesa. Next is a comment. It says, it sounds like EDCO does not have a bio waste facility until 2021 at best case scenario, and Waste Management already has one. Is this correct? Let me see. This comment is from Rolando Valenzuela. Waste Management has been a dedicated partner for more than 30 years. Please delay a council hearing on this contract for at least 30 days to give the community more time to understand its options and fully engage in the public process. This is the only way the city can ensure the best deal possible for the city and our voices can be heard. And sir, in addition to that, I have the 31 cards that I told you because people used a template letter. If you need me to, I can read the names, or I can just read you what the template letter said. It's up to you.
Why don't you read the template letter for us?
Waste Management has a proven 30-year plus track record providing outstanding services to the El Cajon residents and businesses. The company is locally inspired and is an active participant in community organizations like the El Cajon Rotary, El Cajon Valley Host Lions Club, East County Boys and Girls, and the Mother Goose Parade organization. In addition to community involvement, the company is a committed financial partner for El Cajon, producing about $4 million annually for the city in lease and franchise fee revenue, and employing more than 250 local employees. Waste Management is also financially committed to supporting local art programs, providing $100,000 each year to the Magnolia Performing Arts Center. For these reasons, I urge you to support Waste Management, and thank you for your time and consideration. And that concludes the comments.
Good job. Thank you very much. Yeah. All right. Well, council, I think we don't need a motion to close the public hearing. So the discussions with the council, and we'll open to whoever would like to start.
Mayor, I want to just mention one thing before we get into those questions, that Steve South, the president and CEO of EDCO, is on the line and available if you guys have any questions for him as well.
Hi, Steve.
You're muted, Steve.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Steve South. I'm the president and CEO of family owned and operated EDCO. We're honored to be appearing before you today. You obviously have three fine companies and proposals to consider, and we're available to answer any questions you might have on ours.
I appreciate you being there, Steve. Well, we might get back to you.
I have a quick question. One of the public comments talked about, asked why we don't have each resident choose their own trash hauler. And I think it would be wise, maybe Dirk or Graham or Richard, if you could weigh in and kind of give some reasons with regard to roads and infrastructure and things like that.
I'll step in and answer that question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So there's parts of unincorporated San Diego County that offer that service, but the idea is that those are more spread out neighborhoods. Right now, any typical neighborhood that has a franchise hauler has three different types of trucks coming down its street any given day. They'll have its trash truck, its recycle truck, and then it's organics truck or now green waste truck. Imagine if you had that same scenario, but with three different potential haulers, or maybe 4 or 5, because it's open up to the whole market. You could potentially have 3 times however many service providers are in that neighborhood at any given day. So up to 10, 15 trucks. So there's a lot of value for a city as compact as a city of El Cajon to have one franchise hauler. That way we can negotiate the price, build in a CPI. So even though our rates are readjusting right now and will be among the higher over time, that's not negotiated. It's just a CPI locked in perpetuity, or at least for the next 20 years. So it'll end up being a better deal in our minds in the long run for the people of El Cajon.
Thanks, Graham.
Graham, why are some other haulers, besides the 3 in the bid, able to quote less than what we see with a franchise?
Are you referring to the comparison tables?
No. Company X is not one of the 3 in the current RFP. It's not EDCO, it's not Republic, it's not Waste Management. Company X has come in and said, and it was referred to, I think, in one of the public comments, we're going to bid this many $100 less than what your proposal is. How are they able to do that?
I don't know how they can do that.
Richard, do you have any experience in that?
Yeah. What the one comment was on the open market competition, where basically you have a license to collect trash. There's no other requirements on it. They don't have to provide the public education and outreach. They don't have to provide recycling. They don't have to provide organics. And a lot of times they don't have to pay any kind of a franchise fee or admin fee on top of that. It's the only way they can actually do it cheaper.
So would we say that may not be in compliance with California or our requirements?
It would very likely be non-compliant.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
In addition to that, one of the comments that was made mentioned that they were in the county and they were upset that some of the offerings outside of a franchise agreement, they didn't get free bulk pickup, they didn't get free all these other things that a franchise negotiates for a city. So people that were making comments outside of a city in the county, for example, they were saying that they don't get these other things, which are negotiated as part of a franchise agreement.
This is a question for Steve South. One of the comments said, we're not going to get the bulk item pickup like we get free with Waste Management 4 times a year. What's your response to that?
Well, I think that staff and the consultant certainly did an excellent job, council member, in crafting the proposal because it's actually in the agreement. So regardless of who your new provider is, there are bulky item collection provisions for residents at no additional charge.
So your service would be comparable to what we get now?
That's correct, if not enhanced by some additional cubic yard requirements that are not in the current agreement.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Can I add one thing to that? The one thing that there's a new service that was also added into this contract is your multifamily complexes will also have access to bulky waste collection. That's a new service for them.
Can you describe that more for us?
So you have a multifamily complex that has 10 units. They get an allocated amount per unit for bulky waste. They call up, the property manager calls it up. They schedule it out. EDCO provides the bins, and they do the bulky waste collection for the multifamily complex. That's not a service we have now.
And that's included in the proposed rate?
That's included in the proposal.
And Mr. Goebel, we included that in the RFP because, as you know, you can just drive around our city, and there are some apartment complexes that tend to have bulky items left right outside the apartment limits because they don't have that luxury right now, that service now. So we added that as part of the RFP to ensure that our streets are cleaner.
How about the bulky waste pickup in the alleys and things like that, like we've had with waste disposal? I imagine they picked them up for us, but how about with EDCO? They'll do the same thing.
So we have a contract, as you know, with ECTLC. We've talked to EDCO about accommodating them as we've been accommodating as Waste Management's been accommodating ECTLC for the free drop off for those bulky items that they pick up. So that will continue to move forward.
So ECTLC picks up the bulky items now for us?
Correct. We have that contract with them to do that in alleyways and on streets.
Okay, good. I didn't know that. Thank you.
Graham, what happens to our transfer station?
So as you know, we just signed a lease agreement with Waste Management for the transfer station. That's a long-term agreement. We suspect that Waste Management will continue to use that space. We don't know what their long-term play is, but the agreement that we have presented before you tonight or this afternoon includes a provision where EDCO would take over that lease agreement with the current terms of that lease agreement, if in the event Waste Management said, we can't operate out of that facility anymore because of we lost you as a customer, we can move EDCO into that facility, and they would resume all those same responsibilities, including the sponsorship of the Magnolia and the repairs to Coogan and other, not Coogan, but O'Connor and the other terms of that agreement.
More questions? Graham, this probably doesn't have much to do with our decision, but I am worried about it. What happens to if we change carriers and a lot of people are going to lose their jobs? What happens to those people?
I've never participated in a transfer of operations to this magnitude. I did in a smaller community, so I don't know that. Richard may be able to respond to kind of what happens typically. I know Dirk just kind of raised his hand too.
I mean, typically it's in the contract and the RFP that the new service provider, the incoming service provider, is required by law to offer employment to displaced workers, and that is part of your services that EDCO is required to do. And I think Steve can also address that as necessary. The reality of it is there aren't 15 drivers floating around that are looking for a job. I mean, the drivers are highly employable, and they're gonna have a job. So I wouldn't be too worried about that at all. They'll get picked up.
Good to know. Thank you,
Steve. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of council, I think that that's an important consideration because obviously those are essential service providers who have performed admirably, particularly during COVID. And we look forward to the opportunity to set up together a robust program for them, the opportunity to join us if they so desire. Obviously, they may like to stay with their current employer, but that'll be their choice. They'll have a great option available to them that we'll be able to work through in a timely, professional manner so that they are not disrupted or displaced.
More questions? Kind of off of the dollars and cents, Waste Management provided us a lot of services besides just picking up our trash. They were heavily involved in a lot of our community events and just involved with the community in general. I don't know much about EDCO, although I have talked to several of the mayors from the other cities who have said nothing but great things about EDCO, so I'll give you that. What's your philosophy on those kind of things? I mean, that's directed to Mr. South.
Well, Mr. Mayor, as a family-owned and operated company, locally based, we're actively committed to the communities we serve. We're very, very engaged, whether it's with Chambers of Commerce, Boys and Girls Clubs, Grossmont Hospital Foundation, just to name a few within East County. I think that what you'll find with EDCO is you'll have the same level of commitment with direct involvement from a variety of people within our organization. And I think we provided actually, sir, we also provided some additional information to the city validating some of those things with, again, whether it's Chamber of Commerce or serving as chair of various capital campaigns in developing projects. So I think that your current provider has obviously done an admirable job, and we look forward to continuing in that tradition and if not expanding upon it.
Okay, council members, more questions? Well, thank you very much. I appreciate Mr. South and for all the staff. Everybody obviously put a lot of work into it. To our consultants, thank you for taking a very complicated issue and making it at least moderately understandable. And we appreciate all the hard work you've put into this. And from here, I think we'll leave it with the city council for discussion and a decision.
I'll jump in. I'll throw the first volley. You know, this is about getting the best deal for the ratepayers. That's ultimately what we're charged to do for the residents and for the businesses. And there's about, I think I tallied up a little over 15,000 residential single-family dwelling accounts and a little over 2,100 commercial accounts. I don't know how many multifamily dwellings. It's unfortunate, the timing. And one of my thoughts coming into this thing was, let's wait and give people some more time to weigh in. But I've learned new information today, and that is that this RFP expires in 32 days. So there's two factors with that. Number one, we may lose these, I'll call it locked-in costs. We don't know what the cost structure will be like in 32 days, that what these companies bid months ago, they may change their mind and say, you know what, this actually is going to cost a little bit more now. And we have the opportunity to lock in rates. I'm not hearing that the rates are going to go down. I asked that question, and Richard seemed to answer that to my satisfaction. The second part is fairness. You know, this was a blind RFP for the first time in decades, really, which was good for the people of El Cajon. But is it fair to lose that 32-day lock? And if we go out more than 32 days and we have to go to RFP again, all three companies now know what the others bid. And so when they have to rebid under a new RFP, is that fair now that they know each other's strengths and weaknesses? So I think there's some fairness in there. The timing is unfortunate, but the 32 days away, I don't think I can say we should push this out. Another reason to push it out would be to say, allow the public more time to provide input. We had, I think Angela said, over 90 cards, several duplicates. I received over 47 comments myself. I think public participation, I mentioned my post, over 5,000 people, asking them the chance to weigh in. So I think we've given a fair shot to the public. What I did hear from the public was two things. Number one, from those who were property owners or owners of multifamily dwellings, they preferred EDCO. From residents, they preferred Waste Management. And most of what I heard was because they've been a great partner. And I got to tell you, Christine Costa really is, and Kaylin Gonzalez and Phil Smith, who's since retired, they are the face and voice of Waste Management in El Cajon. So anything good in Waste Management really has been because of the efforts of Christine, Kaylin, and Phil. So I'm hoping if we choose EDCO, there's a spot, especially for Christine. We've heard Waste Management has been a great partner. I've received over 46 emails. They've been a great partner. I've heard from the mayor that EDCO also is a great partner. So if we have two companies, Waste Management and EDCO, that are great community partners, it comes down to the deal. The residential rates seem to be a wash, within 30 cents of each other going forward. But we know that because EDCO is going to lock in rates an additional 6 months beyond Waste Management, that saves people $1.6 million, according to the staff report, over the life of the contract. How could I not lock that in for people? My second thought is on the commercial side. For the 2,100 commercial accounts, the proposed rates for the commercial accounts are a weighted 8.5% lower than Waste Management. How could I say to the 2,100 commercial customers, I didn't get the best deal for you? I didn't choose the lowest rate if both companies are equal good community partners. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I see both companies as great community partners. It's about the deal. The residents seem to be a wash. There seems to be an 8% lower rate for commercial. I got to look for the best deal.
Any of the council members like to speak?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. It looks like the numbers are pointing towards EDCO. And as Councilmember Goebel said, that's what we should be doing, is looking out for the best deal for residents. And I'll be the first to sing Waste Management's praises. And Councilmember Goebel already said it. I sit on the board for the Chamber of Commerce with Christine, and she's an active partner, and she's been fantastic. And even before I was on council, Waste Management was a great community partner when we wanted to do our El Cajon cleanup group with Kathy Pillman that the council recognized, and Waste Management was right there and in supporting in the community's effort to pick up trash and not charge to dispose of it. And so I've experienced Waste Management's generosity. All the representatives from our nonprofits, which are the backbone of El Cajon, ECTLC, St. Madeleine's, Lions Club, CASA, Elks, Rotary, Crisis House, Salvation Army, all have relationships with Waste Management. So I called around to a handful of elected officials, and their response with regard to having EDCO as their service provider wasn't just great. It's outstanding. They go above and beyond. And they even mentioned, Mayor Poway, Steve Voss even mentioned something similar to what we did in El Cajon. Their residents did in Poway, and they almost mirrored exactly what we did. Representatives in La Mesa said, I don't think I've ever seen a complaint from residents or commercial the entire time I've been on council. So to Steve's point, it comes down to what's the best deal. And that seems to be pointing to EDCO. And I think we'd be doing a disservice if all of the time and energy and the fine-tooth comb that we hired a consultant to go through and determine these factors of which is the best company, and our staff is going through that fine-tooth comb and doing this fresh evaluation process, we'd be doing a disservice if we didn't hold some weight to that. And EDCO, while it was close, won out in all four categories, that all four of those metrics that were fine-tooth comb. And Dirk had a great representation, our Public Works Department, showing our consultant with the suit on, digging through the waste. So they're getting their hands dirty in it. And I think we need to weigh that with a certain option. And we need to weigh that level of understanding. And Steve is completely right. Christine Costa is a pillar in this community, and EDCO has got some big shoes to fill if we do end up voting for them with all these nonprofits that really hold up our community. I would like to see them treated as good, if not better, because I think everyone on the council holds them very high. We have great partnerships with them. So those are my thoughts. I'll yield my time.
Bob?
Well, I have to admit that I've known Ed Burr for almost 50 years. He came to San Diego in the late 60s, and I've known him ever since. He's a wonderful person. He owns EDCO, I believe, still. And I've known several of the people that work for him at different Rotary clubs. And Christine Costa is a diamond. I hope they'll hire her to go to work for EDCO, because she's been fantastic, as everybody said. But I have to do the right thing for the citizens of El Cajon is the best price. And the only reason I voted against the other item was because I wanted them to have more time. As all of these letters have stated, people would have liked to add more time before we make the decision. But I will support EDCO in this decision because of the fact that they are the best for the citizens of El Cajon and the value that they give. So, and I think both companies are comparable in the things that they do, but I've known Ed Burr for almost 60 years, and he's a good friend of mine, and I used him with our business in La Mesa for most of those years, and he still services that property over there. And he's a tremendous person. He's even been out to our facility years ago when I had questions, and he'd come out personally to do it. So they're the kind of company that is going to really do a good job for El Cajon. And all I wanted was more time for this decision, but I guess we weren't going to do that. So we'll support it.
Gary?
Well, first of all, I have nothing but praise for Christine Costa and Kaylee Gonzalez. They've done an outstanding job here in El Cajon. However, I have to look at what's best for the citizens of El Cajon and for their pocketbook. And over the course of the proposed contract, the citizens would save millions of dollars if we go to EDCO. And so I'm going to support EDCO.
Well, I just want to echo that. Christine, Kaylee, and Phil have earned my respect and friendship, and what they've done for this community is it should not be forgotten. And I appreciate what they've done. Look, let's face it, we're facing hard times right now. We may lose $10 million over this COVID crisis.
Or more.
CalPERS is bumping up our contribution rates by over $5 million year over year. God knows what challenges we are going to be seeing in the next few years. Our citizens are going to be paying higher electricity bills and higher cable bills, higher water bills. Nothing's going down. We've got to do whatever we can to protect them. And I think that's where we're at right now. I think we're all in unison about that. So I'd like somebody to make a motion, then we'll go on.
Got one final comment. You know, this is going to be such a jolt to the commercial accounts, this monthly increase as of January 1st. We've got to really communicate to these people that this rate increase is not because we're switching to a new carrier. We cannot let people think that the switching carrier is not a good thing for them. Secondly, I think the council should ask city staff to look at the impact of lowering the franchise fee in a way that makes the hit for commercial locations not as much. We were slightly above average compared to other cities. And then at the end of 2 years, I think we're about average. I think I'd like to see the impact of lowering the franchise fee so at least we're average or a little below average. I think that would be a great gesture to our business community during such a difficult time.
Good comments all. Would somebody like to make a motion?
This is Gary. I'll move adoption of the staff recommendation to have EDCO as our waste hauler.
Second.
Angela.
Mayor Wells, your vote, please.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ortiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Goebel.
Yes.
Councilmember Kendrick.
Yes.
Councilmember McClellan.
Yes.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Could we get a second motion on the approval of the second half of this? We adopted one resolution that does both things, so either confirm that that's what you intended was the one resolution to approve both steps, or get a separate motion to authorize the agreement to be executed by the city manager, please.
So moved for the second motion.
Second.
Mayor Wells, your vote.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ortiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Goebel.
Yes.
Councilmember Kendrick.
Yes.
Councilmember McClellan.
Yes.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Okay, gentlemen, all of you involved, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for all your hard work and for your contributions to this effort. Actually, a big day for El Cajon. Thank you very much. Moving on, the last, I'm sorry. Oh. The last administrative report, item 18, is a sewer billing update. I'd like to ask staff to introduce this item, please.
Mr. Mayor, we still have two items actually. Number 17 would come. We'd recommend we move to number 17 right now.
Oh, well, that would probably make more sense if we stay in order. Sorry about that. The second administrative report, item 17, is regarding the East County Advanced Water Purification Wastewater Services Agreement. Staff, please tell us about this.
Well, thank you very much. Unfortunately for you, it's more of me, and so you get to hear me a little bit more, and on the next item as well. But I want to bring this item to you because, as you know, we've been working hard as staff and as a city to work with our new JPA that we formed at the latter end of last year to build the East County Advanced Water Purification JPA. And just as a reminder of that JPA, we are losing all of our PowerPoints, but that's okay. We are in concert with the County of San Diego Sanitation District, and we are in partner with Padre Dam Municipal Water, and we also are a partner as a member, a non-voting member of the JPA with Helix Water District. So we're very, very excited to be partnered with them and very excited for that opportunity. So able to get this back up here and move forward. This project will utilize wastewater or sewer water, treat it, put it into Lake Jennings, and produce 30% of East County's water supply. That's very, very important here, and just want to remind everybody why we're doing this. And it's to not only have a reliable water source, but to move us forward and having control over the ever-rising costs that the San Diego Metro system has for us. So this is good news all the way around as this project moves forward. But today what we're here to do is to talk about the wastewater service agreement, which is the agreement between El Cajon and the JPA, and it's the framework for how we are going to pay for the transmission and treatment of sewer water into the new plant. So just to remind you, back in 2014, this project started. We had an MOU developing concepts and a planning study, and that was between Helix, Padre Dam, and the county and us. And then in 2016, we did another MOU to move on to the feasibility study and recommendation of the development of the regional project. We formed in 2019 the JPA, and now here we are signing and working through agreements. Now, these agreements, there's a wastewater service agreement between the JPA and each of the member agencies, which is El Cajon, the County Sanitation District, and Padre Dam. And then there's a product water purchase agreement between the JPA and Helix Water. And then there's a recycle water purchase agreement, sub-agreement, and water purchase agreement between Helix Water and Padre Dam, and subsequently the recycle water purchase agreement between the JPA and Padre Dam for their recycle water purple pipe system. So we're getting ready to have design contracts. Package 1, which is the plant, the largest part of this, is the biggest part, and it's out to bid. We've narrowed it down to three bidders, and they're working on those RFP submittal now. And then part of this is these agreements have to be in place in order for us to apply for millions of dollars worth of grants and low interest funds. And so this is the next step that we have to get in place. We're in line with the county and Padre Dam taking it to their respective boards. And then we'll have a meeting where the JPA board where Councilmember Kendrick serves on that board as the chair. So we'll keep moving forward with all this and bringing us to what this wastewater service agreement does and is. Like I said, it's 3 separate agreements, and it's a 30-year term. And what this does is it allows us to, it's for those who will contribute to the project, contribute wastewater, and establish the pricing methodology, the framework, if you will, for all of this. So very, very excited about it. It's a good contract. We've reviewed it for months. We've had our several attorneys. Our city attorney has reviewed it. It is a good deal for the city and allows us to negotiate moving forward the exact pricing and how we will get there. But there's still off ramps for the project at the GMP, the guaranteed maximum price phase, to make sure that we're not binding ourselves to anything that's going to lock us in. But all things are moving in a positive direction, and that's why we're here today. And for that reason, the recommendation is to approve this agreement and authorize the city manager to execute it. And I'm available for any questions if you have any. And also Kyle Swanson with Padre Dam is on the line. If you have any questions for him, he is able to answer any of those.
Sounds great.
Isn't La Mesa part of this agreement?
They are not. They're not part of the JPA because they're served by Helix Water, and all of La Mesa's sewage actually goes down through Alvarado Creek or down that direction. It doesn't flow towards Mission Gorge.
So it's just us and Padre Dam?
And a portion of the county of San Diego.
Okay. All right.
Great. Hey, Council, do you have any more questions about this?
So, hi, this is Gary. I just have a comment, and that's in the next drought, which certainly will be coming at some point, we're going to be glad that we get 30% of our water from local sources. Because the worst thing that could happen as a city is you turn on the tap and nothing comes out but dust. And that's also could save our business and industrial manufacturers. So this is really important. If we have an earthquake, we at least have a certain supply of water.
Well, and also we have a certain supply at a rate that we somewhat have control over. Otherwise, we're sewage rates to the city of San Diego, which are part of their pure water program.
Well, Dirk, you're doing a good job. Next thing you're going to come back and talk about the locust problem.
Okay.
I got one more question. They said 30% they would be able to recycle of the sewage.
Yeah.
What determines that? I mean, I think there's more than 30% of the sewage is water.
Actually, that's 30% of our water needs in East County will be supplied by the converted sewage. So it's actually, we're actually looking at over 95% conversion rate of the sewage into drinkable water.
Okay. That's what I was wondering. It just didn't make sense that only 30% would be. Yeah.
Good
Angela,
question.
Angela, do we have any cards on this?
I have a quick question. Sorry. Dirk, is it my understanding that the current facility that we're going to have, is it built to capacity? Is there any more room in our infrastructure and the geography to have it be bigger in the future? Or have we reached our limit with regard to capacity?
No, great question. So the way that we've designed this facility, and I got to hand it to Padre Dan, they put a lot of effort into this, but what we've done is we projected out to our 2050 projected flows. And so we've built it to be sized to handle those flows in the year 2050. And so we're looking at the city where we can build up, build out, and same with the county and with Padre Dam, which services parts of the county and Santee. And so we're looking at that. What we're limited by is the capacity at Lake Jennings. Under permit, we can only go up to a certain amount, and I believe that's 16,000 acre feet per year, and so or just a little bit under that. And so anything more than that, Helix Water wouldn't be able to take from us. So as we move forward into this process, the land is there to expand. We definitely left room in the design, or we're going to leave room in the design to expand the plant if we need to. But we're also going to explore other quote-unquote buyers of the water, maybe the city of San Diego out to El Cap Reservoir, or some other types of uses for that water. But it's a work in progress, and it's definitely by no means this is like the gate by which we enter. It's the start of the path, right? And so we're going to keep working on this, but we've definitely looked out and sized this thing right.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, Angela. Speaker cards.
We have no cards, sir.
All right. Well, we don't need to close the public hearing, so it's just up to discussion and or a motion.
I have no comments.
Well, I think this is a great thing. Any discussion? Somebody like to make a motion?
I'll move that the City Council adopts the next resolution to approve the East County Advanced Water Purification Service Agreement and authorizes the city manager to accept the agreement, to execute the agreement.
Second.
All right.
Mayor Wells, your vote.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ortiz.
Yes.
Council Member Goebel.
Yes.
Council Member Kent.
Yes.
Council Member McClellan.
Yes.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right. The last administrative report, item 18, is a sewer billing update, and I'll ask staff to introduce this item. Hopefully, it's Dirk again, because I left Dirk.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I'm certainly excited to take up so much of your time here, but it is truly an honor and a pleasure. And as I pull up the slide here, we've been working hard on this, and as you know, it hasn't been the easiest thing in the world. We are certainly trying hard to find out how we can bill our customers, our sewer customers, and so this all started back when we.
Dirk froze on
Dirk.
That was how do we figure out in the short term how to handle this? We signed, you guys authorized, the city council authorized some short-term agreements to get us through June 30th of this year. We've been doing that. It's actually been taking a lot of in-house staff time, taking them away from other items that they should have been working on or normally would be working on. I got to thank Yasmin Ariano, our Deputy Director of Public Works, Jeff Manchester, Blake Behringer, and Monica Martinez, and we have some customer service people that have been filling in and help us out. Karen Vigil and Hope Gold, they've been really doing an excellent job. Really, we couldn't do without these people. We wouldn't be getting bills out right now. So I have to start with that. And the staff has just been amazing. They've spent countless hours putting this together and trying to figure out what the best solution is. We came in January, and that's when the city council, if you recall, asked us to bring back the tax roll option. And we did that in March, and we presented that along with two other options. At that meeting, none were selected. We walked away from there not selecting the tax roll option that we were asked to bring back. And so we immediately went out to bid. And we went out to bid to get a full consultant cost. We needed to see what the market was. And so what we did was we went out to bid, and very quickly opened up. We got 7 responses, surprisingly, considering years before when we went out to bid on a similar thing, we got 1 response. So we had options, and that was really, really good. We reviewed those options, narrowed it down to the top 3 best options that were going to be for us, and we ultimately landed on the best value for the city for that option. So the fully contracted service, we were able to get a price on that. It ended up coming in a little bit higher than what we originally had anticipated. And so now here we are in May. We have the RFP results. We have the impact of the different options. And we're here today to select a long-term billing option. So the way that we've set this up is we have 4 options. You'll vote on all of them or one of them and select one and only one. So hopefully we can go through this. And I figured it was easiest to just display everything in a table so that you can see it all on the screen at once and to see the impacts of these. And so I'm going to walk you through this. So on the left-hand side, we've got the 4 options. And they are the fully contracted service, the in-house service that we brought to you before. And then we discovered something interesting. There was a hybrid option. This hybrid option was minimizing the amount of staff that we needed to hire. But we realized that as we've been going through this process on the short term, that having some in-house staff to handle the customer service side of things was not only cost effective, but it was also amazingly better for our customer service. Our customers complained to no end about Fathom's customer service. We would always end up getting their calls after they had tried to serve them as customers. And so it just wasted a lot of staff time. So we found out that customers are much more happy with talking to somebody in our office and that knows what the heck's going on. So this hybrid option marries the best of both worlds. It contracts out, it diversifies our portfolio and puts some options out there into the contract world, but it also has some in-house options. And it ends up being a little bit less expensive. Lastly, we are still presenting the tax roll option as an option, especially today because it does offer some savings to the already approved rates. So council's already approved rates for this year, a rate increase of 11%. And so anything that we do will impact that. We have a $600,000 line item in our budget that we used for Fathom's costs. Now that dollar figure changes. So on the fully contracted service, after we went through the RFP process, Minel USA was the best value, and their costs are their costs plus the costs that we've estimated to be the costs that are for payment processing, credit card fees and stuff like that, which we've anticipated in our rate study. So our rates already include these rates for processing, but we're also charged those rates. So we have to include that as a total cost, just as the in-house or the hybrid option. We would also have rates that are charged to us for credit card fees. So it's an apple-to-apple comparison. We had to include it in all of them so that the city council would see the total cost of doing business. The $1,056,000 includes all of that, which is $456,000 more than what we had budgeted, or we would need to raise the already approved rate. We would recommend increasing the approved rate by 2.1%. And to do that, we would set a Prop 218 hearing notice and mail out notices. That would be part, and that there's a resolution that has all of those actions required for that as part of your package. So there's one resolution there, or the in-house option, which would increase the agreement with Advanced Utility for the software to run the billing process. But then we would increase our personnel to handle printing, mailing envelopes, folding paper, mailing out these things on a regular basis, set a Prop 218 hearing notice. for the 1.8% that would cause, or $353,000 over the $600,000 that we had budgeted, and it's a change there. The hybrid option, like we said, there would be a slight increase in our personnel. We're trying to take advantage of existing personnel or existing positions that we have that we could transfer and utilize. But we also involve signing agreements with AUS, InfoSend, and V5, and it would authorize the Prop 218 public hearing and mailing the notices. And lastly, the cost of doing the tax roll option is $225,000. Last time we came to you, it was a little bit more expensive, but in our digging, we were able to find even more savings here, just as we were in the other ones. Like I said, we were able to find some personnel that we could reallocate for the customer support and customer service side of things. So guess what? This is $374,000 less than our budgeted, which is approximately equal to, we could reduce the already approved rates by 2%. And this comes down to dollars, right? Especially in the situation that we're in. We're trying to do what's right by the citizens, and it comes down to the fees and what's charged to them. I gave you a average residential example. This would lower the annual cost by $13. But where it really kind of hits home is in the restaurant. We did our typical restaurants here, and it would lower the cost on a typical restaurant. And we looked at I think it was a slice of 61 different restaurants, from taco shops to fast food to, In-N-Out, and then Applebee's and all these different restaurants throughout the city. And it would be about a $200 a year decrease in their to the proposed rates. So this would authorize the agreement for sewer billing to go on the tax roll, and then the support by MV5, and then it would be the resolution to suspend the collection of 2% from the approved 11% this next fiscal year starting in July. So those are the options that we have before you. I want to talk to you a little bit about the implementation. This is the same schedule here, but I talk about this because no matter what decision we make, it's going to require some implementation, a consultant to go with a new software to transition. We estimate that to be about 18 months. And I was pushing my staff. They're saying it could be up to 24 months. And I'm saying we need to be realistic on this. And so it could be quite a haul there, just transitioning and getting everything over. Our last experience was a bad one, so we're snake bitten on kind of last transition to a new software a few years back. And then the in-house option, we would need to hire so many more personnel, which would be about 6 months out. The hybrid and the tax roll option, the transition would be almost immediately, but up to 3 months of transition there, which would get us off to a great start, which the county requires us to submit all of the documentation and the tables at about that 3 month mark. So it gives us enough time to process and get this going. So with that being said, it brings us to our recommendation and our resolutions. Here are the different options placed before you. And as you can see, there might be, you're going to hear later, potentially that the costs for the fully contracted option might be overinflated because of the credit card fees. But one thing to that is we had to take a stab in the dark at this, but it's not that dark. We have some good data that helps us to really look at this. And so we were conservative, but even if we were to drop that by $100,000 to be like, if we were trying to get it right on the nose, we're still in that $950,000 range, which is similar to the in-house option, and then the hybrid option obviously being less expensive there, and then the tax roll option being the least and the one that provides benefit. So they're all there for you to discuss and consider, and that concludes my presentation.
Thanks, Dirk. Appreciate that. Council, any questions, Dirk?
Well, we decided on the tax dollar for the least expensive cost. This is another case of that, having the gall to go ahead and take the tax roll option, which is the lowest cost for our taxpayers. And that's what we're elected to do, save them money. And that's what we need to do. So I know you voted, some of you, the other way last time, but here's a chance that you can redeem yourselves and vote for the best option for the taxpayers. And I think you need to think about that. So I'm going to support the tax option again.
Bob, I don't disagree with you. I had concerns about it before, but I'm leaning more towards it now because of the situation we're in. And I think you're right. Desperate times mean desperate measures. I'm open to considering it. I'd like to hear what the other council members think.
Could you go back to the slide that has the monthly costs, to confirm those are annual cost changes, correct?
Yes, sir.
So what we're looking at is, of the outsource to the tax roll will save us $13 a year, the typical resident. If we choose the least monthly, or I should say bi-monthly solution, it's going to cost $7.20 a year more than what we're paying now. That's a $20 swing for the whole year, whether we put it on a tax roll or whether we outsource it or not put it on a tax roll. And as we discussed in the last meeting, the concern is if you put it on the tax roll, people who live paycheck to paycheck, regardless of your income level, that's a very difficult ask. And I guess that's kind of really what I'm still thinking is, when you live paycheck to paycheck and all of a sudden you get hit with a property tax bill twice a year that's got the extra several $100s on it, and in sewer billing, are we missing something to say, man, we're putting them in a bad spot?
They'll have time to plan for it, so we can let them know ahead of time that it's going to happen and save their money. And 70% of the people that own their homes actually pay their mortgage company monthly, so they're not paying twice a year; they're paying monthly. So we're talking about a handful of people that would like to have it every other month, versus 70% that it won't make any difference to at all. It'll just save them $13, and it'll save the commercial accounts $200. So I think that we have to do the best thing for our taxpayers.
This is Gary. I have a comment on that too. Why should this huge percentage of the taxpayers pay an extra $830,000 more in sewer fees to subsidize those few who don't have the self-discipline to set aside the money every month? And that's a lot of money when you compare the tax bill to doing it in-house. And then the hybrid, we would save the taxpayers $613,500 per month by my calculations. So it's just a philosophical thing. It's really not our problem if someone doesn't have the self-discipline to set aside the money every month. That's not government's place to do that. I believe in personal responsibility and giving the taxpayers the lowest possible cost. So that's my 2 cents worth.
Dirk, was Bob right about those figures? About 70% have impound accounts and 30% don't?
Yeah, from the information that we were able to gather, which is a couple years old, but all indications show that it's trending upward. In California, that is continuing to increase, that percentage.
Dirk, could you develop some kind of a education program for our ratepayers so they didn't get hit with this?
Absolutely, and one of the things that we've already talked about is putting out like a 20-second commercial on Facebook or putting it out there so that everybody's very well educated. In addition to the paper mailings, direct mailings, we can be creative with this campaign and make sure that we get it out there to everybody so that they understand exactly what's going on. And Gary may know, or Councilmember Kendrick may know more about this, but I think if you send the county 12 equal checks, they'll take them. So if you want to split it up and do it monthly or bi-monthly, do 6 equal checks, they'll take your money and apply it to your account. So
I'm pretty sure that check with the tax collector.
Say that again, Gary.
I'm pretty sure you're right, but I would want to check with the tax collector to make sure of that.
Yeah, we had. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was going to comment, Mr. Mayor, on the promotion portion. We met with the apartment association. We offered to actually produce some door hangers that they would actually utilize. They could utilize for their own marketing purposes, but it would have information that would help their or any resident that they're marketing to understand any switchover if that's the route that the council wants to take.
Did I remember right that the apartment association and the board of realtors were against this?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I think it was the board of realtors, Pacific Southwest Board of Realtors, because they thought it would make it more difficult to qualify for a loan. But I checked with 4 loan brokers, mortgage brokers, and they said no. When you buy a house, they use a certain percentage.
Yeah, I buy a house.
Everybody
they use one.
So that's not an issue. I couldn't find a single mortgage broker that said otherwise.
Yeah, I had a mortgage broker who spoke to me and said that buying a TV on a credit card impacts your chances of qualifying for a loan more than this would.
If I remember right, there were only 13 people. Are we going to let 13 people decide for the other 999,800 because we have 100,000 people in El Cajon?
Let me ask Angela if she
people decide that
on this, and then we can come back and discuss it and take a vote. Angela, any speaker cards on this?
Yes, sir. We have 2 cards. The first one was submitted by somebody without a name, and it just says, hopefully the choice will not increase residential billing rates.
Okay.
And the second card, the second card is from Kevin Marcinek, the Vice President of Municipal Manol USA. And that comment reads, Manol still has concerns regarding the estimated cost of Manol's RFP response being over $1 million and the highest option. Manol's total proposal for first year is $750,000 with $550,000 thereafter. We believe Manol is being inaccurately presented and that our proposed cost is listed over $1 million compared to the in-house and hybrid options. Either the additional $300,000 estimated cost for payment processing is incorrect, or it was added on to Manol's cost without considering an alternative option. If possible, Manol would like further clarification from the council on these additional costs. We believe either an error has been made or the option were not compared as apples to apples. Manol believe it would be better for both the council members and the citizens to have the details of the proposed cost for each option provided to us for a complete evaluation. We believe that Manol's pricing, if accurately depicted, would be the second lowest option, with only the tax roll option being the only less expensive option. We fully understand that there is no way to offer a bi-monthly billing option that would cost less than the tax bill option, but there are several compelling benefits for the city to continue with bi-monthly billing options, such as 1, improved cash flow, 2, a more user-based billing structure, and 3, the city should be able to reduce their current cost by utilizing Minol as their billing providers if an accurate cost comparison is presented. We truly appreciate your time and consideration, and that concludes the comment.
Graham, I'll kick that one to you.
So Minol gave us a bid for that very specific service of billing, but they did not include credit card expenses. So we had to, so we could compare apples to apples, because all the other options did include credit card processing. So as Mr. Epperson said, we took kind of an assumption based on what our current costs are for credit cards. It's about $300,000 added to their $700,000, a little under 300 to their $750,000 bid, which got us to just over the $1 million. So assuming that staff was wrong by half, like we could half that credit card amount, which we would love to figure out how to do that. But even if we did, they would still be in between the hybrid and the in-house model. So they still aren't the lowest. And of the 3 options, not including the tax roll, and they clearly don't compete with the tax roll in terms of costs.
All right, thank you, Graham. Okay, so no more cards on this?
No more cards, sir.
All right, Council, I'll bring it back to you. I have one more question. Remember in our last discussion, you talked about the number of municipalities that were using the tax roll option versus the direct billing option. Do you remember those figures, Dirk?
Sure. We are, of all the agencies in the county that doesn't have their own their own water department, in which they bundle the sewer bill with the water bill. So we're clearly not in that category, right? So of all the cities that are in that category, we're the only one. Well, Chula Vista is half that way, right? Because they bill half one way on the tax roll and half with their water bill, and so they've kind of got a hybrid option out there. But we're the only ones besides Chula Vista that does not bill on the tax roll. So the percentage is very, very high. Of those, it's a high percentage of those who bill on the tax roll.
I get it. Thanks, Dirk. All right, Council, I'll leave it to you. Any thoughts?
You know, my concern was the people who live paycheck to paycheck not being able to save, and that this policy creates a hardship. But if we can find out if the tax collector does indeed allow them to pay on whatever frequency they like, that would change my mind.
Okay. What about the education part of it, Steve?
The education part?
If we invested some time and energy into educating people that this was coming so they could prepare.
I think the key for me is to find out if the taxpayer or the tax collector will accept periodic payments.
Well, I don't know that we're going to be able to find that out today.
Well, Steve, I also know that the tax collector will accept credit cards, but they're going to charge you about a 2% fee.
Yeah, whether you pay by credit card or cash, will they accept property tax payments outside of the cycle?
I know they accept them outside of the cycle, but I don't know how often you can make it. I don't know that for a fact.
Is there to staff, is there a need that we have to settle this today? Could we have a very quick meeting on this in 2 weeks with that answer? I think that's down to what it is. I think I'm the only one that still wants to go with the hybrid. But so
there's only 12 people that spoke that wanted the every 2 months. And if they can't have the personal responsibility to save the money and pay it on the tax bill, when we notify them, that's what we're going to do.
Steve, I think your better option probably is to vote no or to abstain.
Can I chime in really fast? Now, this is as good as Google gets. So, according to Google, yes, you can make a payment as often as you like, but each payment must be at least the amount of the interest that has accrued since the date of your last payment plus 1 month of interest. So the short answer is yes, you can make periodic payments, but you can't make it for like 2 cents. It has to have some connectivity with your interest payment.
Well done.
That was Sarah Diaz, by the way, that found that.
Yeah, and is the source of information in the county of San Diego or just a general?
That was the county of San Diego.
Okay, that's a reliable source thing. That does change my mind.
Well, Bob, why don't you make a motion?
I'd move that we go to the tax bill and educate the people, send them out a very detailed, easy to read thing that says that they won't be billed every 2 months. Save your money because you'll have to pay it with your taxes twice a year.
I'd like to ask for an amended motion. Bob, if you were to consider the education to include the ability to pay periodically, including monthly or bi-monthly, as a choice in the education we send them.
Yeah, whatever the county allows. But I think maybe staff could call up these 12 people that came in and spoke and tell them to save their money.
So, Bob, the question is, can we add to your motion Steve's amendment?
Yes.
All right, is there a second for that then?
Second.
All right, Angela?
Mayor Wells, your vote, please.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ortiz,
Yes.
Council Member Goebel,
Yes.
Council Member Kendrick,
Yes.
Council Member McClellan.
Yes.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
You know, this is an interesting thing. A lot of people have misconceptions about our 5-0 votes. And there's probably not very many people online to witness this, but this is how this council is very functional in that we negotiate things in public and make concessions and considerations. The 5-0 vote doesn't mean we necessarily agree on everything. It means we know how to compromise and do that. And most people don't know that. And that's a testament to our council's functionality, not the dysfunction days of old. A couple of years ago.
Thanks, Steve. I think that's good. Good point.
Can I interject again? I hate to be like this, but does the motion include the adoption of the resolution that was prepared for placing it on the tax roll? Because that's going to be important to do that under the Health and Safety Code. And
would you like us to have another motion?
I think that would be nice. Thanks.
So moved as to what Morgan has suggested.
Second.
Thank you.
Mayor Wells, your vote.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ortiz,
Yes.
Council Member Goebel,
Yes.
Council Member Kendrick,
Yes.
and Council Member McClellan.
Absolutely.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Okay. Well, we're getting towards the end of this council meeting, and we're just getting started. So, item 19 is my activity report, which is as reported. There is no legislative report on today's agenda, and we are now at activity report for Council Member Kendrick.
As reported.
McClellan. Bob?
As reported, and I think this is the evening meeting that we're getting into now.
I know.
It's 7 o'clock.
Councilmember Goebel.
As reported.
And Deputy Mayor Phil Ortiz.
As reported.
There are no joint council member reports today. There are no general information items for discussion, no first or second reading of ordinances, and no closed session on the agenda. So that brings us to the adjournment. The regular joint meeting of the El Cajon City Council, El Cajon Housing Authority, held this 12th day of May 2020, is adjourned till Tuesday, May 26th, 2020 at 3 o'clock p.m. Thank you.
Okay.